Let's go and move with life. Let it go. Something new tonight. Let's go and move with life. Let it go. Something new tonight.
G'day guys, welcome to the Unofficial Scorecard Podcast, a podcast where we talk all things boxing and occasionally the wider world of combat sports. This is episode 73, and joining me on today's episode, guys, all the way, returning mate of the show, all the way from his first appearance in 2019, it's Paul Cupitt. Guys, if you've been listening to this pod for a while and from the early days, you will certainly know who Paul is. Or if you're just a fan of this sport, which you seemingly are because you're listening or watching this, of Australian boxing, you will know Paul Cupitt. He's a former national amateur champion, a pro fighter, a historian. He wrote a book called Jack Carroll and the Rise of Australian Boxing. He trains amateurs and pros. He has recently just moved into refereeing and judging in the professionals as well as the amateurs. He does it all. There was so much there, I almost lost my train of thought remembering all the things that he does in this sport. He's a lifelong dedicated boxing man, and those people are very, very easy to support. It's always a great time chatting with Paul. I mentioned that the first time he was on the pod was in 2019, but we've stayed in pretty regular-ish contact since, spoken on the phone and stuff multiple times, and I thought, geez, it's about time I got Paul back on, and we had a fantastic chat, guys. I think we went for about an hour and 45 minutes, so I'll try and keep this intro nice and short, but yeah, I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. I learnt a ton during this podcast and this chat. Paul is a wealth of knowledge and he's not afraid to share it. So I really think you guys will get a kick out of it because I certainly did. So let's keep this short and get to that now. All right. Well, here I am joined once again. Actually, admittedly, after a few years, but still joined once again by one of the most knowledgeable boxing people from anywhere on the planet that I've met through doing this pod. National amateur champion boxer, pro fighter, historian, the author of the unbelievably detailed Jack Carroll and the Rise of Australian Boxing, an absolute must-have for any Aussie fight fan, current amateur and professional trainer, pro referee and judge, and returning mate of the show. It's Paul Cupitt. Paul, thanks for coming back on, mate.
My absolute pleasure.
Now, that's one of the bigger intros I've ever had to give anyone, just because there's so many different facets of the sport that you're involved in. And I definitely plan on getting to all of them for sure. But before we go forward, we always have to go back, mate. And we've had a huge march on the domestic scene in Australia. So I thought there's no one better than you to get on the pod to jump back and get into all those fights from March, mate. So we might start with the card that was free on Fox Sports and KO. Saturday, March the 1st. The main event was Liam Wilson in a rematch with Yusuf Dib. We also had John Manu with a brilliant performance over Jalen Tate. Jack Bowen against, I didn't write his first name down, but Shegalayev, I believe. Floyd Masson was back with the 8-round decision over a African opponent. And Kira Rustin, who we will talk about for the first time, but not the last time during this March recap. But I guess we have to start at the top, Paul. Liam Wilson, Yusuf Dib, what were you expecting going into the rematch, mate? And did it kind of play out the way you thought it would?
I thought Wilson was going to have it a bit easier this time, but it started off that way. He got a couple of good knockdowns early on. It sort of seemed like he abandoned the game plan after he dropped in. That was what I got watching it. Like, when he was using his jab, Dib just didn't really have much of an answer for him, especially early on. And then he hurt him, and he was just sitting in the pocket, just trading bombs with him, and it made for a good fight, but it made it a lot more difficult for him. I sort of thought if he picked his shots a bit better, he could have got Dib out of there, and then ended up having quite a hard 10-round fight.
I mean, man, I'm so glad you said it because that's what it looked like to me too. And I guess that speaks to a larger theme of Liam's career. Like, he seems to be at his most devastating best when he boxes first. Yeah. But he just doesn't. He just loves getting in a tear up from a training and also as a fighter yourself, Paul. What is it that for whatever reason Liam, as you mentioned, couldn't stick to a game plan, but also just loves throwing the baby out with the bathwater? Like, what is it? It's unreal.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You'd have to get into his brain to really see that. And obviously, I don't know the guy, so I don't really know what his personality's like. Some guys, like, I've trained guys before who are tall for their weight division, and they just like to scrap. And you're just like, come on, mate, just you've got these God-given physical attributes, just sit on the outside and use them. But they just like getting in there and having a scrap, and it works for him. I mean, he's a world class fighter, but when he uses that jab, he's just such a beautiful boxer. And then when he stands on the inside, a few of the flaws he has in his game, just like his defense starts to show. Especially like Ben, what is he, 5'11" at that weight?
He's big, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know exactly, but he's big, yeah.
yeah. Like it's hard to cover up on the inside when you're so much taller than your opponent, and he just likes getting in there and fighting with them, and just gives those short guys a chance to get back into the fight.
When you've trained sort of those tall guys, like you said in the past, have you had much success in trying to sort of quell their natural instincts and get them to box a little bit more to a game plan? Like, have you found a way that kind of works with those guys, or is it a case of just everyone being different?
I think it's a personality thing. Like some guys, you're just not going to be able to curb those that enthusiasm to trade bombs, and then some guys will. They don't like getting hit as much, so they're quite happy to sit back at a range where they don't get hit. I think Wilson's sort of the former. He seems to like, and he's got that power too. So, but he uses it so much better from the outside. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah. No, you're not the first person I've spoke to with that opinion, Paul, that's for sure. And I would certainly agree with you too. But yeah, they say boxing's 90% mental, and it seems to be that way definitely for Liam. And
Yeah,
I'm sure his trainers and coaches who he's been with forever are having the same thoughts and opinions, or similar at least. And yeah, if they haven't sort of found a way to get him to not be so reckless, I guess no one can. But we'll
yeah,
see. He's going to be in fun fights, and the fight was fun.
exactly.
What did you make of Yusuf Dib's performance, mate? Those 2 knockdowns earlier, I thought he was tough as nails,
Yeah,
but ultimately it's another loss to the same bloke back to back. It certainly sets him back in his career. But where do you see both guys moving forward after this?
I think Wilson will probably have another run up with the title. And hopefully, like he's got No Limit behind him, so they'll get the right fights for him and be able to position himself where he can get those fights. I'm not really too sure what there is for Dib. Like there's plenty of fights. Like Australian boxing is in such a good position now. Like there's plenty of fights for him. It's not like even sort of 5-6 years ago where there were so few fights on TV. Well, I mean, we've got Tasman fighters, we've got DAZN. There's so many options for Australian fighters now. So there's plenty of fights out there for Dib.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. And man, what a warrior. Like, he was hurt pretty bad. Also, that low blow late that seemed pretty blatant that he had to fight through too.
Yeah, I know. That was a big low blow. It was sort of Ricky Hatton Kosciuszko style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But apparently there was, I heard that there was talk of Wilson dropping back down to super featherweight, and No Limit were going to try and get O'Shaki Foster out here.
Oh, okay.
But I think that might have gone by the wayside now. I think Liam hurt his hand or had some sort of other injury.
It was
as
a hard
well.
fight. It was a hard fight. Like they were, in there trading punches for most of those 10 rounds. I thought Wilson was a clear winner, but it wasn't an easy fight. He took some big shots, even in the second round I think it was the second round when he got the second knockdown. That was when Dib really came back because Wilson was just started sitting in the pocket swinging. And he was using angles here and there, but there just didn't seem to be just more madness than method.
That's the perfect way to describe Liam Wilson's style, I reckon. Madness over method. But, mate, we had a brilliant performance by Johnny Manu in the co-main over Jalen Tate.
Yeah.
I liked Manu going in. I just thought he'd be too big. I didn't think it'd be that devastating and that quick, though. What were you thinking leading into that fight?
Oh, he's I was 50-50 on it. It was just such a good matchup. Like the size and the power and the strength just seemed to be the difference. Tate was doing some good work to the body. You could see he was trying to slow him down early, but just couldn't handle the strength and the power. He was getting knocked off balance when they were sort of coming in on the inside, and just the power Manu's got. It just seemed to be the difference in the end.
Who actually is a natural right-hander.
Yeah, right, okay.
Funnily enough, so I tried to call him a switch hitter. I was talking to a mate of the show, Justin Westerman, a couple of months ago about him. He's a massive Johnny Manu fan and knows Bright Burfs all pretty well. Obviously, being Dale Westerman's brother and all that sort of thing. So he's a huge Johnny Manu fan. And I referred to Manu as a switch hitter.
Yeah.
And he goes, mate, that's actually not really right. That's like calling Terence Crawford a switch hitter. Terence Crawford's basically just a southpaw these days. And he goes, Johnny Manu just picks it fight to fight. He doesn't really, he changes a little bit during fights, but he mainly sort of stays in that southpaw stance. So in terms of like on the domestic level, it's probably one of the rare guys that can fight as effectively and devastatingly either way. So, and it certainly was devastating when it landed. But I didn't see it ending so quickly. How did you think it would play out, Paul?
I was expecting sort of at least at the end of the late rounds. I thought Tate would build up an earlier lead. Like I thought he won the first round, lost the second, and then it was over. So I was sort of expecting Tate to have a bit more success, but Manu was just right in on top of him pretty much from the get go. Even the first round, he was Tate was taking big shots.
Yeah, and it's like we've seen it before, like guys like Jalen Tate who have that that real sort of loose reactionary based style, wide feet, hands down, leaning over the front foot. And when it works, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't, it seems like they don't have a plan B to fall back on. Like they never really spent time learning the fundamentals that when things go wrong and they need them, they don't have them. Did that sort of strike you as well?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a style that works well in the amateurs when you've only got 3 rounds to survive and then you back up and fight again the next day because there's such an emphasis on getting your work done and not getting hit. Whereas the pros, you can just take that little bit more time. You can punch shoulders, you can punch the body, and obviously body punches are harder to score for amateur judges, especially if you're sort of getting elbows and stuff in there. It's hard to tell whether the punch landed or not. But you get a good pro fighter, even if they're hitting those elbows, they're doing that little bit of damage. So it's I think it's very much an amateur style, and it might just be a case of making a few adjustments. And you see a lot of the guys coming from the amateurs to the pros, they're still relying on that head movement and that footwork, and there's not a lot of effective glove blocking or arm blocking, which I think works better in the pros. You take that little bit more damage, but you get yourself in better positions to tie up and stuff like that. Whereas if you're constantly moving your head, moving your feet, jumping in and out, you're going to wear yourself down over those longer fights.
Yeah. And I've noticed a trend lately too, and I couldn't think of a better person to ask about it. Over the last couple of the years, guys don't really now when they turn pro, and maybe this has something to do with what you're saying about the amateurs there, but the right elbow seems to be so, like, just in their natural posture and stance, the right elbow is so far away from the rib cage these days. Is that just been
that's
like
something I've noticed as well, and I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Maloneys do it too. I'm a huge Maloney fan, but it seems to be like that generation of the amateurs, like maybe a decade ago or so. All these guys were taught to have as if their hands are forward of their body more, so their elbow is just further away. And yeah, it seems to just leave that huge gap to the body that you spoke about.
Yeah.
Damn. But mate, I've just got Jalen Tate's record up because it's certainly an interesting case. The guy was on fire early, had so many incredible performances. The fight before he lost to Ibi Bella, he fought a guy called Alexander Espinoza, whose name I could not remember. He won a split decision.
Yeah.
Very lucky to get that, especially with I think he got knocked down twice in the, last couple of rounds.
I was looking at his record as I was watching the Manu fight back, and I can't actually remember watching that fight.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was one of the first ones that was on the 7+ Ace Boxing
right.
Premier Boxing Series, I think.
Yeah, okay.
But I remember, I can't remember too much about that fight, but I remember at the end of it being like, we got lucky there. Next fight, he lost to Ibi Bella, had a tune-up with a Chineseman, and now lost to John Manu. That's a rough trot. That's, in my opinion, lost 3 out of his last 4. From a training perspective and a coaching perspective, Paul, if you were in charge of Jalen Tate's career from now, what sort of path would you want to start heading him down from here?
I think after a knockout loss like that, he's just going to have to rebuild a little bit, just like a little bit of a break. You can't rush someone back after getting... it wasn't a devastating knockout. Like, it was a good stoppage on that second knockdown. Like, you can see his legs were gone. You can see the ref was having a good look at him after the first one. He just needs a little bit of time to recover, and obviously he's got some backing up there because he's had 20-odd fights and won most of them. And that's a lot of what, like, there's plenty of guys in Australian boxing who can fight but don't have the backing. And there's a lot of guys who can't fight and do have the backing. I think Tate's one of those few guys who has the backing and can fight. I think he's just got to build his confidence back up, work on a few things, and he'd be ready for another run. Because how old is he? He's only a young fella, isn't he?
I think he's only like 23 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. They
yeah.
don't do the ages on BoxRec anymore.
Oh, they do if you log in. He's 23.
Oh,
You got to have an account. Yeah.
I forgot my password about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Bloody BoxRec. But anyway, yeah, well, it's certainly going to be interesting to see where he goes from here. But
Yeah.
yeah, we also had Kira Rustin on that card who blew a bloke over in the first round. So we'll talk about Kira a little later. Floyd Masson was back at a unanimous decision with his new team over an African opponent. Floyd's been in some wars. I didn't actually get to see that fight he had with Mateusz Masternak in Poland. Did you see it?
No, I haven't seen that one either.
Yeah, apparently he was robbed blind, but I
Yeah,
haven't
right.
seen it. I
Okay.
haven't been able to track it down.
I'll have to see if I can track that one down as well. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
Masson's been good to watch. He's sort of that bordering on world class level now. I think, what is he, 38 in the world on BoxRec? I'm just looking him up, and sort of he gets the right fights, he could sort of break in and get a shot at one of the belts.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. No, and such a nice bloke too, by all accounts, people that know him personally.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
yeah, we had Jack Bowen beat a really good opponent. I didn't write his first name down, not that I'd be able to pronounce it anyway, but Shegalayev, who I believe was from...
Bilakia. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but that's his first name, yeah. Bowen sort of built himself, was it his third or fourth win back since he got caught by Quinlan.
I think
He's
so,
built
yeah.
himself back up because he was a very good amateur. I watched him a few times live at amateur shows, and a lot of natural skill. It was like I was talking about before, like relies a little bit on the feet and the head movement, and I think that's sort of where Quinlan caught him. Yeah, just
Yeah.
a tough old pro like Quinlan, Quinlan's one of those guys, can fight, probably hasn't got the backing to, if he sort of had the sponsorship early on, could have been brought up and been anything. But yeah, I know, like, I had him on, I don't know if you know the app Map My Run.
No.
It's sort of like, it was like an old school Strava back when he was fighting. He was just doing 6Ks around Kempsey when he was training to fight guys like Daniel Gill, and like, he was just training out of a tin shed. And he's like incredibly tough, incredibly skilled fighter, just not really had the camp and the backing to go a long way. And then once he's beaten Daniel Gill, a lot of guys are just using him as a stepping stone, which is a shame, but he's getting the fights at least.
Damn. But
yeah.
You're right. Like sometimes you see him at a weigh-in and you're like, oh, geez, he has not trained at all. But for that Bowen fight, he was ripped up on the scales.
Yeah.
He took that one super seriously and had a great performance. So we'll, hopefully Ren's got another run in him yet. But I think
he's lost. He's lost his last three. I'm just looking. Yeah, which is a shame. But yeah, it wasn't much of a fight with Okuzo. Okuzo seemed to do just enough to win it, and Quinlan didn't really seem to be there to win it. It was a little bit of a snooze fest, that one, but it was a shame he didn't sort of build that momentum from the Bowen win.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, it was a good card, as mentioned. The March 1st, free on Fox and KO. Which, as our mates at No Limit, my mates at No Limit, I don't expect you to comment on any of that, Paul. We'll keep it strictly to the boxing, but they don't like doing too many free shows these days, so we'll have to get ready to get our wallets out or make alternative arrangements for the next couple of months, but unfortunately. But there was a promotion and a card and a fight I wanted to ask you about, Paul, because I'm sure you'll know much more about it than me, at least from down in Melbourne, just seeing everything on social media and on BoxRec. Wanderer Promotions seem to be putting on a ton of like pro-am shows, it seems like.
Yeah.
Have you had much to do with your amateur team with Wanderer?
I've got a couple of my guys fighting on the next one. It's just been a case of they've put the shows on because they do a lot of Thursday shows and a lot of Sunday shows.
Okay.
It's hard for me to get down being in Newcastle and sort of working full time as well as being in the gym and trying to fit all the boxing stuff in. So every time he's put a show on, I've been working. But I've got the next one off, so I've put a couple of guys down. He's matched two of them up. yeah, I haven't had any of my pros on their ones, but like they've been pretty good to deal with. It looks like it's a good promotion. Like there's a lot of media stuff. Like they do a lot of interviews and stuff like that. Seems to be, especially like there's. I think they have it down in Melbourne too. You've got the boxing league and the boxing association. So the boxing association, a lot of it's just fights at a basketball stadium at a PCYC. Very like they put 30 fights on. They sort of match the week of the fight. Like they're more after the fights rather than the high production value. Whereas the
Mhm.
league sort of put them on at the RSL. They get a few lights. They get the music, make it a bit more sort of viewer friendly. And the idea is to try and make a profit on it. The Wanderer promotion seems to be doing that with like the Boxing Australia style show, but they're putting a high production value on it.
Yeah, okay.
So they're sort of trying to get it to build a bit of a platform for a lot of these guys who are going to turn professional.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And they're doing the is it 4-3s for the
Um,
New South Wales League?
they do 4-2s the league, the association,
Yeah.
which is what Wanderer fights on. They do the Olympic style, so the main guys do 3-3s. So I got
Right.
two of my elite amateurs are fighting on the next one, and they're both 3 3-minute round fights.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So have you watched a few of those cards? Because there was a result that I just saw on BoxRec, which I want to ask you about this guy. A guy called Marco Romeo, who I'd never heard of, won a pro 8-round decision over Ken Aiken. And Ken Aiken's a pretty decent
Yeah,
Queensland fighter from Queensland who's been in some really fun, entertaining fights. Do you know much about Marco Romeo, or have you seen him before? Or
I haven't really watched him fight too much, but he was a good amateur. He won a few New South Wales titles and stuff like that. Just looking here, he lost to Shannon Davey at the 2022. So they would have been the Olympic trial. So he lost in the quarterfinals to Shannon, and then he's turned pro after that. But like he beat some good guys in the amateurs. So like the guy can fight, and he's got the backing. Um,
yeah,
yeah, so like what is he now? 6-0, 7-0. Like he's beaten. They're not the couple early ones on. They were guys who were like there to fall over. Not so much like fall over. You know what I mean? Like it's it's a 99% win chance. But like his last three fights, he's fought decent guys, like experienced guys who've been in with good guys. Some of them got a couple of amateur backgrounds, and then obviously like Ken Aiken was a good win for him. It was a tough fight, and yeah. So like
yeah.
Marco looks like he could be someone who could be a bit of a prospect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just going from BoxRec, he's certainly one I'm going to put on my list and keep an eye on moving forward. But oh, mate, best of luck to you guys on that next Wanderer show too. And
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, cool promotion to keep an eye on as well. Doing big things in New South Wales too at an amateur level, which is great to see. We'll move on to our first pay per view of the year, which we're used to. The main event pay per views from No Limit. They love doing them. Should this one have been a pay per view? Absolutely not. But we're here just to talk about the fights. So it was Wednesday, the 12th of March. We had Keith Thurman over from America with a third round destruction of Brock Jarvis. Michael Zarafa was back with, I thought, a pretty good performance. I thought he got a little bit maligned by people with a stoppage in the 7th round over Basir A. Matteo Tapia was back with a 5-round knockout of Sergey Vorobev. And we said we were going to talk about Kira Rustin again because we have to with his 6-round stoppage and brilliant performance over Tongo. Jason Fawcett had a breakout performance with a 2nd-round stoppage over Kohei Hatanaka. And on the undercard, which I know you would know about these guys a lot more than me, Paul, so we'll get into that. But Jacob Clenshaw and Kavana Vaotua had a great 5-round fight. But we'll start at the top. Thurman Jarvis, weird fight. One of the weirder fights I've seen in the last couple of years in the build-up. The lead-up was painstakingly awkward. I don't know. The whole thing just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But what did you make of it, Paul?
I think No Limits put that fight on for a reason. The winner of that fight is going to fight Tim next. I think it's pretty much a gimme that that's going to happen, provided
Yeah.
Tim wins on Saturday. But I don't think that's an easy fight by any stretch of the imagination with Joey Spencer. But there's a lot of hype with those two fighting. It was they got in each other's face. They made it good TV, and it was an entertaining fight while it lasted. I honestly didn't think Jarvis was going to get out of the first round if Thurman showed up. And I think Thurman sort of bided his time, just let him, like, you can see him, sat in the pocket that little bit, just let Jarvis throw a few shots and saw what he had, and then just waited. And he knew Jarvis was going to make that mistake.
Yeah.
Jarvis he's a great lightweight, but he's technical flaws show up at the higher weights, and he can't rely on that strength. And that
Yeah.
was I never rated him as a boxer. Like, he was just bigger and stronger than all of those guys at those weights. And obviously devastating punching power at that weight, but there's weight classes for a reason. It's one thing
Yeah.
being a power puncher at 55 kilo, and you're fighting at 72. You're fighting guys with bigger skeletons, and like Jarvis is probably a lightweight who boiled himself down, and I think that's why he's had those breaks. Is all the time he spent cutting weight, and I don't think that's good for you long term. So he's at the point now where I don't think he can make those weight classes anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a shame for him. It's like that fight he had in Bendigo on the Horns of Rafa undercard. The guy's name was Sao Long,
I
Edward
remember
Sao
I
Long, I
can't remember the
think.
guy's name, but I remember the fight.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ernesto Salong. Yeah,
there we go.
yeah.
And he got rocked badly in that fight because this was the first time he fought a guy who could fight off the back foot a little
Was
bit
it
and punch
super
clean.
bantamweight?
Yeah, that's the worst of. I haven't seen as many weigh-ins live as you, but I was at that weigh-in, and I
Yeah,
was there
okay.
with Anthony Cox, the Aussie boxing scribe. Shout out to Coxie, legend. We were standing next to each other. Brock Jarvis took his t-shirt off and stood on the scales. Anthony and I just looked at each other like he was shaking, like
Yeah.
he looked hard. Like I've never seen anyone look worse on a scale
He
ever.
didn't
It
fight
was
for
alarming.
16 months after that.
Oh man,
But that
yeah,
fight,
it's
so it was one of his early ones. I'll try and, so it was 2017. I refed a show. I was there refing the amateurs before I had my pro license. And there were two pro fights, Billy Dibb and Brock Jarvis. And Brock Jarvis got in the ring. Like, I'm just looking at the weight. They were fighting a bantamweight, and Brock Jarvis looked like he's about 70 kilo when he got in the ring. And this
yes.
little guy, I can see I've got a old recording of the knockout. I don't think the fight was recorded anywhere, so it's probably the only video of this fight. And like they're not huge punches that he's hitting this guy with, but it's just the size difference. Like the punch probably travels 6 inches. This little uppercut that he hits this
Oh
guy with,
man,
and the guy's just asleep. It's just
Jesus.
guys like 6 or 7 weight classes apart in weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Was that on the Tevin Farmer Billy Dib undercard?
Nah,
Was that
this
the show?
one was it was just a little show. It was at Five
Okay.
Dock in Sydney. It was at a tiny little hall. Jeff Fennick promoted it himself. They had there was 15 amateur fights and then these two pro fights, and it was a big black
Okay.
tie event.
Yep.
I was even in my ref outfit. I was the worst dressed person in there. I was the boxers. All these guys in $1,000 suits are getting around, and I'm in my cheap little Kmart white shirt with my $5 bow tie.
But a killer mustache.
Yes,
So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, there's always a positive.
Oh,
But
100%.
but Brock Jarvis, so that fight in Bendigo when, I think that was the first time he fought a guy who could fight off the back foot a little bit and
Yeah,
could find gaps with his back against the ropes. And, Brock almost paid a bad price. He got rocked badly in America at lightweight
yeah.
against Frias Rodriguez. And
Oh, yeah, yeah.
no offense to that guy, but not exactly the cleanest puncher. But
I
then he
could
gets in
believe
with
when he fought Parro, had the odds that people actually thought he was going to be able to handle Parro's power, because Liam could always whack. Like, it was
yeah,
sort of, there was the point where everyone knew who Liam Parro was when he got that big win. But, like,
yeah.
I think Liam was 4-1 underdog or something. I think I got him by knockout at 7-1.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, and it just went pretty much how I thought. Like Jarvis would come get in his face and just walk into one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it sort of showed that he, at a world class level against a guy who can punch real clean and find gaps, Brock's going to have trouble. So that was always the question mark for me with Thurman. It's like, well, if Thurman rocks up 20% of what he was
Yeah,
8 years ago, like he's going to punch the absolute piss out of Brock
yeah.
Jarvis and find those holes. And, you just said, as you pointed out too, it seemed to take him a little bit of time. That first round, he didn't really do too much. But, once he found it and got that motor running a little bit and got warm,
There's
it was
element of
basically
ring
over.
rust there as well. I think
Yeah.
Thurman hasn't been active. Like, he's just such a wasted talent. Like if he'd just been a little bit more active, I don't know if he's been injured or if they're contract disputes, but he just like how long ago was it that he fought Danny Garcia? That
Oh,
would have been
geez.
2018, I think. I'm just looking it up now. In 2017, he fought Garcia and
Yeah.
didn't fight for almost 2 years when he fought Lopez. Looked terrible in that fight. Then he fought Pacquiao.
Lopez
And
could have stopped him in that 7th round.
yeah,
Like a lot of refs stop fights like that. If
yeah,
Lopez was rocked that badly by Thurman, they would have stopped it.
yeah.
That
He's
was a
fought four
decent.
times since that Garcia win. Yeah,
Wild inactivity.
I
But as
know.
much as I hated the build up, I did love it when I did genuinely think it was hilarious when Brock Jarvis had to go at his toe shoes. And Keith Thurman goes, "You got to spread them toes out, baby." He just immediately rolled with it. That was pretty funny. I'll
Yeah,
give
it
him
was. Yeah.
that. So I did enjoy
He's
some of
definitely a character, and I think he's gonna like he'll probably get if Tim wins this weekend, you'll probably get a good payday out of fighting Tim.
Yeah, yeah. We'll certainly talk about Tim coming up a little later, but we'll move on down the card. What did you make of Zarafa, mate? I thought Zarafa looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did look like
Yeah,
yeah, I agree. Like I think I'm not one of these people who hates on Zarafa. Like he puts the personality on to try and sell the fights, and I think he's made himself a little bit public enemy number one,
yeah,
especially with what happened with the Tim fight back in what was that 2021, which is a shame. But yeah, I'd still like to see that fight. I don't know if Zarafa can make junior middleweight anymore, but they're even talking about it because Spencer's having these disputes over the 3 Australian judges at the moment. They're even talking about it this weekend. Like, be more than happy for that to happen this weekend if Spencer doesn't want the fight.
yeah, yeah.
That's a fight I definitely want to see.
Yeah, for sure. I think it might even be like a better fight, or at least have a little bit more intrigue. But yeah, as you pointed out, people maybe they were just sort of blinded by by their hatred of Zarafa. But yeah, I thought he looked pretty good, and I did watch one of Basir A's fights at lunchtime at work a couple of days beforehand, and I was like, okay, this guy's like pretty big for the weight, like pretty handy, pretty decent fundamentals. Like he wasn't a bad fighter.
Mm,
And Zarafa took his time. He finally got some rounds. He hasn't had rounds for years, and then executed at the end and got the stoppage. So I
yeah,
thought it was a pretty impressive performance by Zarafa and probably just what he needed.
yeah, no, definitely. Like, I think Zarafa's had a couple of performances where I think I don't like saying this about fighters, but I think the big weakness with Zarafa is his chin. Like, he's been knocked out a few times. And I think he just fights that little bit overcautious sometimes, which doesn't endear the fans. And that,
Mm.
with all the stuff that's happened in the past with Tim, sort of adds to the hate that he gets online.
Mm.
But no, honestly, I thought he looked good in that fight. Like he was letting his hands go nicely. He boxed a smart game plan. And then when he saw the opening, he put him away. There wasn't a second where I thought he wasn't in control of that fight.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And yeah, I think he's said he broke his hand after the fight, but apparently now he's offering to step in on, 3, 4,
Yeah, yeah,
2, 1 days notice. So
yeah, yeah,
seems to be all good. But yeah, exactly what Zarafa needed, I think. Yeah, we had Mateo Tapia back against Sergey Vorobev,
yeah.
which I think I imagine you would have had a little bit to do with Mateo Tapia
I've seen
over
him.
the
I
years.
haven't really. I've never met the guy. I've seen
Okay.
him fight in person a couple of times. He got a. Oh, who did he fight? It was when it was the Tim. Not the Tim. The Tevin Farmer Billy Dibb card. He got a huge. Oh, here we are. Isaac Buckley got a huge knockout on that fight. Like, just I remember he just about poleaxed Buckley over the top rope with the right
Oh,
hand.
jeez.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
one of the most incredible knockouts I've seen in person.
Wow.
But he's like his fight with was this Savidra that
Mm.
he had recently? That was a war. I think Tappy is another one. I don't think he's going to have a super long career just because he does seem to take a few more punches than he needs to. But he's going to be entertaining, and he's starting to step up into that world class. Like it was a good win he got on that undercard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really rate Vorobev too highly coming in. So it was kind of about how I expected. Vorobev actually, I thought it would end earlier. Vorobev, excuse me,
Yeah,
probably overperformed, at least to my estimations, but what the hell do I know? I get proven wrong all the time. But
yeah.
yeah,
He was
weirdly enough,
competitive. I don't know if you saw him fight Wade Ryan.
yeah.
It was like he was competitive with Wade. Wade's I know Wade's a good friend of mine. I've known Wade for a long time, and like Wade's a technician. He's a good boxer, and he's always in shape. And like Vorobev, like that actually wouldn't be a bad fight. I think Wade Ryan and Tapia. I think that'd be a good step up for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Is Wade fighting at middleweight now?
Oh, has Tapia gone up to middle? Has he? I think Wade. No, Wade's still junior middle. I thought Tapia.
No, he was super middle and dropped down to
Oh, he's
middle.
dropped down. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought
Yeah.
he dropped down to junior middle. No, Wade's still at junior middle. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But damn, not a bad fight. I never even
Yeah.
thought about that.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
bloody good idea. Yeah, but we'll see. Interestingly enough, and we'll talk about it a little later. We probably won't because I've never heard of the opponent. But so Mateo Tapia fought Vorobev on the 12th of March. Coming up this weekend on the 6th, one of the undercard fights, pretty high up the card. Endry Saavedra, who Tapia had the draw with last year, is fighting a guy from Denmark called Mikael Nielsen.
Okay. Yeah,
Why
I've
wouldn't
seen
they
that on the
just...
card. I've got. Yeah, I've looked at that one and I'm like, I didn't know either of those guys, but I remember Saavedra now from that fight. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, why wouldn't they have just done that fight was a draw on the Tim Tszyu background murders Aliev undercard, and geez, Tapia was probably pretty lucky to get the draw, very
Yeah.
lucky to get the draw in my opinion,
Well,
especially with the
three
knockdowns.
knockdowns or 4 knockdowns he copped. He's a few, yeah.
Yeah, he got the one, but
Yeah.
you'd reckon with those 10-8s, that's tough to come back from, but it was a draw, so you'd reckon they'd set the rematch up, but they're fighting a month apart in Australia against different guys. I don't know, just kind of seemed weird. Maybe there's a long-term plan that I'm not privy
It
to.
might be a case of they're trying to put that fight on with it being on international TV this weekend. It might, rather than just having all the local fights, it might be, okay, we're going to put this on the undercard and, yeah, as a rematch of one of the previous ones that was overseas.
I didn't even think of that. Okay. There we go. You might be onto something, Paul. That didn't even enter my head, that possibility.
Yeah, you often see that with these fights down here. There's usually an international fight on the undercard, but usually the guys have got some sort of tie to Australia. It's sort of weird that they fly 2 guys over to Australia, put them up and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes with that stuff.
Yeah, crazy. Oh, well, we'll see what happens. But now we move on to the breakout performance, on the best performance of this card. Kira Rustin with a dominating 6-round stoppage over Tongo. Man, what did you make of this, Paul? This was.
Do you know much about Kira Rustin? Like, have you seen him in the amateurs? Or
I know he lost to Callum Peters twice. That's about it.
Yeah, so Callum, world class amateur at 75 kilo. Kira was the 80 kilo champion. At the Olympics, they decided there's going to be no 75 kilo class. So they put all these guys at 75 kilo in a position where they either had to go up to 80 or make 71. Completely dangerous, completely stupid. So I've got a 75 kilo guy. I trained Theo had 12 fights at the Olympic trial, coming to the Olympic trials. He wasn't ready for that sort of step up. Like, we had Mark Borg and Marlon Savinho were the 2 top guys in New South Wales. Wouldn't have put Theo in with either of those guys at that point. I put him in with them now. He's had that bit more experience, but they all jumped up to 80 kilos. So I put Theo in at 75, and there were only 3 entered at that bracket because there were so few. Everyone's jumped up or gone down. There was 9 entered at 71 kilo, and there was 6 entered at 80 kilo in New South Wales. No one at 75. So Theo had to box off the number 2 spot. The number 1 is this guy called Paul Trainer, who'll probably go pro in a few years. He's a really good prospect. Paul was meant to fight Theo leading up to that fight. Paul pulled out at the last minute. Theo ended up not getting the fight on this show. Theo fought this guy. It was a competition spart again, and Theo knocked the guy out, and then they didn't send him to nationals. So they sent Paul. He didn't even have to fight to get onto the team. I blew up at it. Theo didn't get to go over there for the trials, but he wouldn't have made the Olympic team anyway. And then Paul ended up winning the national title, came back to States a month later, fought Theo in the semi-finals and barely won a split decision. So, it was, but the competition just jumped from 75. Like, not everyone left. They all went to 80 or they went to 71. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Kira's in this horrible position where he's then got to fight Callum Peters, who is a world-class amateur, has won silver at the Commonwealth Games. And, like, it was a good fight. If you can get that,
You should have
on
won gold.
YouTube. Yeah.
Sam Hickey, yeah.
Yeah, if you can get that fight on YouTube, it's on the Boxing Australia website, I believe. Like Callum Peters, Kira Rushton fight, it's a tear up for 3 rounds. Like you got two quality guys fighting for a spot on the Australian Olympic team. And Kira fought Mark Borg in the semi-finals. And I know Mark. I used to spar Mark when he was a kid at Lincoln Hudson's gym in Sydney. Mark's an excellent prospect. He's got no business fighting at 80 kilo. Like he's sort of 75, 71. He come up from 67. He's a skinny kid, and just like that's where it gets dangerous when they remove weight classes with these Olympic things. And it's one of the good reasons that the IOC's, sorry, not the IOC, IABA's gone from it because like that. I think I can't remember if it was IABA or the IOC who made that decision, but putting a 9 kilo gap in weight classes at that point is just dangerous. Kira fought Mark, and it was a horrific knockout for an amateur fight. And that's when I'm like, okay, I know who I'm going to keep an eye on this Kira Rushton guy from that fight. And then he fought Callum, and it was a good hard fight. It was one of the harder fights Callum probably had that year up until the Olympics. So I've kept a good eye on him, and like I think his style's more suited to the pros as well. He's got that power. He's got that range. I think he's going to be one to watch.
Yeah. Well, I'd always wondered because I looked it up a couple of months ago, like towards the end of last year. And I was like, I wonder why Callum Peters went from 75 to 80 because he was turning pro at super middle. So I was like, oh, maybe it's a 24-hour weigh-in thing. He just doesn't want to do it on the same day. But I had no idea that they took away that 75 kilo weight class.
No 75 kilo class at the last Olympics is one of the older weight classes. I think they've had 75 kilo at every Olympics except the last one.
Wow. I had no idea. Yeah, that's insane.
They're trying to remove weight classes because people think there's too many weight classes. If they're going to remove weight classes, they should go back to the old original 8 and then add one in between 80 kilo, so add cruiserweight.
Yeah.
Instead of coming up with all these freak show weight classes where they got 5 kilo gaps for guys who weigh 50 kilo, they need boxing people to make these decisions. They went back to the original 8. Like your flyweight, they've got them in pounds. You can round them up to the kilo, whatever. But keeping them similar to those things and calling them what they used to be. The Olympic weight classes, they always end up having something stupid like light flyweight, and then they skip bantamweight and they jump straight up to featherweight. Like they're not boxing people making these decisions.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where it does become a little bit dangerous when that happens, and they don't think about the consequences of removing a weight class like 75 kilo. It's just one of the more populous weight classes. Like we've got a tournament in New South Wales next weekend, King of the Ring, and there's 12 guys I think in the opens at 75 kilo. Like 75 and 71 are always absolutely stacked. I've got two guys. I got one at 65 and one at 71 who are just novices, and they got to fight 4 times to win that tournament.
Oh, geez.
Crazy numbers of that weight in Australia in any state. It's and then they remove it internationally. It's just it just doesn't make sense to me.
Man, well, I had no idea. I find it hard enough just following the pros, let alone the amateurs, Paul. So, thanks for sharing that.
That's all right. Well, that's the thing. I think Kira would have been a lot more well known if he'd gone to the Olympics because he probably could have got close to medaling at 80 kilo. Like Callum made the quarterfinals and got ripped off, and and if Callum had fought at 75 kilo, I think he could have medaled down there as well.
Yeah,
it shows how talented that guy is. He jumped up to 80 kilo and competed with the best in the world.
Yeah, wow. Man, that's unreal. Well, yeah, like I said, thanks for sharing that, Paul. I had no idea about it. I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching will have not known that either.
Callum's fighting this weekend. Callum's just the epitome of a fighter. He's just travels around Australia fighting in all the tournaments. I followed him on Instagram after he won the silver. It would have been after he qualified for the Olympics at some point. I just saw him on Instagram, followed him. He followed me right back, and I'm like, okay, that's a little bit weird. Like Commonwealth Games silver medalist following me on Instagram. I'm not really anyone. And then last year was at this tournament that's coming up next weekend. I was down there last year, and I was just sort of sitting waiting for the coaches meeting. And I say, "Oh, how you going, Paul?" And it's Callum Peters. I've never met this guy in my life. He just comes up, says hello, gives me a hug, shakes my hand, asks me how many guys I got on, and he just walks around all weekend getting photos with everyone. And then he just bashes everyone at the tournament, and he gets photos with them after. He's just such a nice guy and such a good fighter, and it's just it's good that he's going pro and he's got no limit behind him. It'll be,
Yeah.
because I think he'll be a superstar in the next generation of Australian fighters.
Far out. Yeah, we'll get to Callum Peters a little later as well.
Yeah,
But back to Kira in this pro fight with Tongo. So we obviously saw the fight with Max Reeves. Max Reeves is a pretty handy pro, and Tongo bloody just that power and the resilience and just broke him down. Not much of a technician, but the raw power and strength and the toughness sort of can't be underestimated. And Kira just went in with this unbelievably mature, professional game plan, worked off the jab, didn't take chances, executed perfectly to my eye. What did you make of Kira's performance in that fight?
like it was flawless, really, wasn't it? It just there wasn't a second of the fight. He wasn't in control. Um, yeah, he just did the right things. Like I think he lost a round or two, but like he just lost it, extending Tongo into those later rounds, and then just punished him, really, didn't he? It was like it
Yeah.
was a good corner stoppage. I thought like he wasn't going to win that fight. He was just going to get hurt if they send him back out.
Yeah, for sure. Man, that was such a brilliant performance. But man, the future's so bright for Kira Russ, and it's going to be so much fun to watch him in the future and what he does next. We also had Jason Fawcett had a pretty good breakout performance against Kohei Hatanaka. Stopped him in the second round. Jason had been on a couple of these cards, obviously closely associated with Sam Goodman, and maybe not the greatest performances in the past on these no limit undercards, but this one he certainly found the gear and stepped it up a level and certainly impressed. What did you make of Jason Fawcett, Paul?
I've seen Jason spar a lot because we go down to their gym a lot for sparring, and
Sweet.
yeah, I've seen what he can do in the gym. He's phenomenal. He can be phenomenal. It's just like you said. I think a couple of times he's fought on these bigger shows. He hasn't taken what he's done in the gym and done and put it together on fight night. But no, like it's tremendous performance.
Yeah. How often do you go? Because geographically, that's a fair distance away in New South Wales down to their gym, isn't it? Or
It's an hour.
okay.
Drive. Yeah, it's just they spar at 7 in the morning on a Saturday. Like,
Do they?
Yeah, it's just when they spar, and so I'm usually smashing a coffee on the way down there. I get a couple of guys meet me at my place, and I drive them down there, and they get bashed for 12 rounds or whatever, and we come home, and then I go back to bed. That's often my Saturdays.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's like just great sparring down there. Like he's got Sam Goodman. They've got an amateur named Jack Newman who's phenomenal. Fred Zewa. I don't know if you've seen Fred.
No.
Fred is probably pound for pound the hardest puncher in Australian boxing. He's from Uganda, I think. But like Fred Ziwa, double ZIWA. Look him up. He's got like just phenomenal knockouts in the amateurs. He's had a couple of pro fights and he's gone back to amateur. I swear he broke one of my guys' jaws last year.
Oh.
Yeah, he didn't knock him out, but I've seen him knock some guys out in that gym at sparring, and he's got Fawcett, Kalamazoo trains down there. Like they're just like another guy, Solomon Shepherd, who gave Callum Peters a hard fight at King of the Ring last year. Like just got phenomenal guys, both pros and amateurs. So it's really, really good sparring when we get down there.
Wow. What's their reason for sparring so early on a Saturday morning?
Just their schedule. Like every gym's got their schedule. Like my novice amateur spar Tuesday, Thursday. I put my pros sort of on a different schedule. Sometimes I throw them in with the amateurs, but it's just Joel's pretty strict with how he does things, or I'm a little bit more relaxed. It's they spar. It's just when they spar. I don't really know the reason for it, but we make it work.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, mate. That'd be a phenomenal experience. Well, excited to see what Jason Fawcett can produce for the rest of the year, coming off that great start to the year as well. And there was a really good fight to open up the card or on the prelims. Jacob Clenshaw had a unanimous decision over 5 rounds over Kavana Vatua. I don't know how to say his last name. I'll just be honest.
Kavana. We'll just call him Kavana.
Kavana. There we go. That'll be much easier. But I hadn't seen Jacob Clenshaw before. Obviously, the surname stuck out to me, and I was piqued my interest. I hadn't seen Kavana before either. Talk about a fight of 2 halves, and it was only 5 rounds. But this was a brilliant fight, Paul. You probably were more familiar with these guys than I was. Did you know
this? I used to spar Jacob when he was a kid.
Oh, Far
Yeah,
out. There you
I've
go.
known him.
Okay.
I've got photos somewhere of me and him sparring, and yeah, he's good kid. I judged his fight with what's his name, Zeke Campbell on the Akuzo Waterman undercard, and that was a good fight. I'm pretty sure I scored it a draw because it was a draw, and I'm pretty sure I was the one who had it the draw. The
Yep.
other two, one went either way. It was just one of those fights. I think it was a 6 rounder, and 4 of the rounds could have gone either way.
Yeah. Yep. But so you obviously know Jacob Crenshaw pretty well. I was so impressed by his like combination punching, and when he found that range, he found it so quick in the first round, and those first 2 rounds were beautiful for him. But
He's
credit
been
to
training a long time. He hasn't had many amateur fights, but he's been training a long time.
okay,
I think they turned him pro at 18, from memory. So he's been
okay,
fighting, yeah, but they've been pacing him pretty well. He fought in a couple of the Paul Nazari undercards. I think, yeah, I'm just looking up. He had a fight in Thailand. Um, yeah, so he's been pro for he's come up into his third year. He's only had the 6 fights. But yeah, they're at that point now where they got to sort of step him up, and like he's not going to have the TV record with the zeros on the end of it because he's fighting these good guys and he's a young kid, but he's fighting fights that are going to teach him
yeah,
and
oh,
he's going to get better
absolutely.
with them. Yeah,
This was such a fun fight. Yeah, I'm definitely keeping an eye on both guys. And the way that Kavana like worked himself back into the fight after being seemingly outclassed in the first 2 rounds, just bit down and didn't take no for an answer. Brilliant fight, and both guys showed a ton. So I wouldn't be mad at a rematch. But it also brings up another question, Paul. Now you're into officiating too. What are your thoughts on 5 round fights?
yeah. Could. I don't know why ever did even rounds. Like they had different scoring systems obviously back in, and I think it's just something that it's like a relic from the old days. I You take Clenshaw's fight with Zeke Campbell. They had a 6 round draw. That'd have been over 5 or 7 rounds. You would have had a winner, and obviously, guys don't fight every week. Like that fight happened back in the 30s. They'd have a rematch the next week. That's how it used to
Yeah,
be. So it didn't matter if guys had a draw. You could have a draw and then fight the guy again the next week. But like now, it's a little bit different because guys fight 4 or 5 times a year. So
yeah.
like,
If that.
yeah, I think 5 and 7 rounds, especially in and then sort of stepping up to 10, I think does make more sense. Like obviously 12 round fights have their place with title fights, but the more rounds there are, obviously, the more chance you have of like knockdowns and point deductions. So you're not going to get that sort of 6-6 tie very often in a 12 round fight because you're usually going to have a knockdown or a point deduction or something in there. But even then, like you have 2 guys fight evenly over 12 rounds, like that's something you want to see again. It's not going to be too disappointing. Obviously, no one likes to draw, but I think you're right. Like the prelims, I think 5 rounds is great. I think we
Yeah.
sort of had a few fights have been sorted out well with a fifth round, where it's been even over 4, and then you get that fifth round knockout, or someone sort of pulls away from the other one, and yeah, just takes that chance of the draw out that little bit more.
Yeah, well, exactly to your point. I mean, that fight with Crenshaw and Cavana was probably a draw if there wasn't that extra round. So,
Yeah,
um, it's good for the guy that gets the win. It's kind of bad for the guy that gets the loss, though. But I mean,
yeah,
yeah, what can you do? But
yeah,
yeah, definitely keep an eye on both guys moving forward. But yeah, really, really fun card, or really fun opener, and Kira Rustin just. Oh, stole the show. Unbelievable. So excited to keep watching that guy. But we'll move on to Saturday, the 22nd of March, which was actually free on DAZN. The Sydney, New South Wales return of George Kambosos fighting short notice replacement Jacob Wiley. George got the unanimous decision over 12 rounds there. An upset split decision loss for Sky Nicholson, who lost her world title to Tiara Brown. Shanika Johnson had a 7th-round stoppage in the rematch over Nina Hughes. Imam Katayev had a 10-round war with, why did I not write his first name down? Palacio. That's my bad. No disrespect. And Terra Moana bowled over a Fijian to start their card. But starting at the top, Paul, George was back. Was the buzz big in New South Wales? It kind of, not trying to talk shit about it, but it didn't seem that big from down here. Was
it was a
it
big
big in
crowd.
Sydney?
There was a big
Yeah.
crowd there.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously I was one of the judges for that fight.
Yeah.
Like it was a big crowd. I couldn't see an empty seat. It was a big.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if they just had the lights on in the higher, like the higher rows at Quadros. I think it is Stadium. It's pronounced. But like it was packed. It was noisy. I thought it was a great night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. I was just sort of going off
But
like the
there
fight week.
wasn't much hype during the week though. I didn't really hear too much about it until I got the call to because they called me 3 days before the card to judge it. So I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
really. Yeah, I sort of did it on last minute notice, and yeah,
Oh, wow.
there wasn't really a whole lot of hype leading up to it though. I didn't think, but
Yeah.
there's a big crowd there. Obviously sold. So
Wow. Oh, that's
yeah,
great. That's good for the sport. But
yeah.
well, what'd you make of George's performance and Jake's too, stepping in on short notice
I
as
was
well?
there was a, yeah, it was a great fight. Like I wasn't obviously I was officiating it, so I'm sitting there watching. I'm not sort of rating the guy's performances. I think I had George up 6-2 over the first eight, and then ended up Jake sort of clawed his way back into it. I thought George changed a little bit after he got cut. But yeah, no, I thought it was a solid fight. Like Jake, it was a good performance from Jake. It's hard for George with the change of opponent as well. Like I don't think people realise how much that plays into it
Yeah.
when you're preparing for one style, especially over 12 rounds. You're focused on certain things that this guy's going to do, and then you get someone else step in and he doesn't do those things. It can throw you off.
Yeah. It was like it's so impressive by Jake Wiley. You could almost see maybe around like the 5th or the 6th round, maybe. I can't remember specifically. But like he was getting lit up early with that left hook and this just couldn't handle the speed of George, which should have come as a huge surprise. But I think it was around the 5th or 6th round where you could almost see his eyes open a little bit more. And you could almost see him start to believe he's like, oh, hang on, I'm good here. I'm
Yeah,
not going to get knocked out.
no,
You
no,
always could see that self belief come out of him, and he really
yeah.
started.
I thought the
Yeah,
same thing. Like there was a moment in the fight where he's like, "Hang on, I'm here. I can do this. I've got a chance of
yeah,
winning this fight." And I had the corner right next to me, so they were screaming out, and because I could see like they were like telling him to let his hands go. And when he started doing that, like it started bothering George. I think it was a headbutt caused the cut. I think the cut did bother George a little bit. Like, I think he was sort of expecting it to be a bit cleaner and an easier fight, and I think it bothered him when things sort of started not going his way a little bit. But he had that
yeah,
early lead, and it was Jacob was going to have to do something dramatic to turn that round. I thought.
yeah, yeah. But funnily enough, I mentioned speaking to Justin Westman before. We have a chat every couple of weeks or whatever, and he's high on Johnny Manu. We've been talking about just privately, like we want Johnny Manu, Jake Wiley so badly.
Yeah. Okay.
I just think it'd be such a great fight. This
Oh
obviously
yeah.
this was before. I think Manu was campaigning heavily to step in to get the
Yeah.
Cambosis fight as well. They
There's
went
a
with
few
Wiley.
people campaigning heavily for that.
Yeah, yeah, and it seems like now it's going to be difficult for either guy to kind of, with respect, step back and headline a domestic show against each other. They want to move forward, which I understand. But God, I'd love to see that fight. But we sort of know where Cambosis is going next, provided the cut heals. It seems like a shot at Richardson Hitchens, which, I mean, George's old man must be the greatest negotiator on the planet, because how, in terms of meritocracy, George deserves a world title shot at 140, I have no idea, but all power to him. But more interestingly, Jake Wiley, where do you think he goes after this performance, Paul? And from a trainer's perspective, where would you want to see him go from here if you could steer it?
What you just said, I think that Manu fight, I think that'd be a great fight. But yeah, you obviously want to keep Jay. Like he got that. I don't know if you saw the interviews after it. He called for a contract with DAZN and with Matchroom, and
Yeah,
Eddie Hearn sort of said he signed him. So it'll be good to see him on another one of those cards. I think we've got Opataya fighting one in July.
I think it's May.
May is it? Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
like, if it might be a bit soon for him getting him back on in May, but yeah, sort of getting him on in June, July if they're doing a show here. Yeah, I think Wiley's got a good future, and losing a fight like that is never going to be a downside in your career. Like stepping in last minute, fighting a former world champion, putting on a show like that, and like giving a good account of yourself. It's one of those things. The loss is going to help you in that situation.
And I think the fight that he was preparing for was an 8-rounder or maybe a 10. But like from a fighter's perspective, how hard is it to go, even if you are training for, let's just say an 8 or a 10, how hard is it to take 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whenever that fight is meant to be, out of your prep and then fight 12 rounds against a former world champion? Like, obviously the step up in boxing ability was huge, but physically in terms of just fitness, like how hard is that to do? Because that
Oh yeah, it's
impressed me. Not that I've ever done it myself, but
yeah.
yeah.
You really got to build up to those 12 rounders. Like I got two of my pros I'm training. I'm looking at stepping them up to 6 in the future. So like they're fighting 4. They're usually sparring. I either get them sparring in blocks of 3 where they sort of do 9 or 12, but with 3 have a rest, 3 have a rest. And then I'll get guys in where they'll spar 6 straight and just sort of mix it up. It just sort of depends how they're feeling that day and who we've got available for sparring. But yeah, like getting ready for a 12 round fight, I've seen sort of, because I was heavily involved with Sam Goodman's camp for his fight last July, because one of my guys was one of his main sparring partners, and just
Oh,
sort of
sweet.
seeing how they do that. And he was sort of, they'd do 8 straight one week, and they'd do 18 one week where they're doing blocks of 3 and having a break like that. I think once you Boxing seems to be the only sport where a lot of people want to, like, you don't see marathon runners running a marathon every day. This is what I always say to my guys in the gym, because they want to get in there and just punch on every day. And I'm like, you got to pace yourself, you got to build up to it. The
Yeah.
fight's a performance. You shouldn't be fighting every week leading up to it. It's a lot of it's just, it gets to the point where it's just a mental thing. You get in there and you try and get yourself in the best shape possible, and then it's just a matter of using your brain and trying to break the other guy down and being smart about it. And yeah, you got guys shouldn't be sparring 20 rounds for a 12 round fight every day. Like they should just be building up and making sure they've got the legs to go that 12 hard rounds if it's there. But ideally, you want your skills to not make it go the 12 rounds, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep. No, because I just wanted to ask that question because, yeah, I don't know. I don't think Wiley had ever done 12 rounds. I don't think he'd ever been
No,
scheduled for 12 rounds before. So to do it on short notice, like,
especially being
yeah,
in with someone of George's experience and ring IQ, because George has done 12 a few times now, and
yeah,
he's like, George has fought some good guys on the way up too. Like Brandon Ogilvy, I remember him fighting Brandon after Brandon beat Darragh Foley, because there was big talks of Cambosis and Darragh Foley fighting when they were both on the way up. There was a bit of trash talk with the
yeah.
two of them. Darragh was one of the ones who put his hand up to jump in last minute with Cambosis on the weekend, and um, like George is a quality operator. He's very experienced. He's obviously been overseas sparring Pacquiao and doing a lot of training overseas. So they go from preparing for an 8 rounder and then jump in with someone of George's ring IQ and giving like coming home strong in the late rounds in that fight. I was
Yeah.
very very impressed with him.
Yeah, just the boxing ability belief and also the cardio belief as well. It
Yeah,
was a fight of belief for Jake Wiley. That's
yeah.
kind of the theme for his performance. It was
I think that performance will help him in the future. Like, he knows he can go 12 with a world class operator.
yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
these guys who doubt themselves, he'll be able to break them down.
Absolutely, mate. And we had, before we even get to this fight, I'm just going to put my hand up. I'm a terrible judge at the best of times. I'm an even worse judge when it comes to female fights. I find those 2 minute rounds like
Yeah,
essentially impossible to score. So I have no idea if this decision was warranted. Sky was robbed. Tiara Brown won every round. I have no idea what happened, but we do know Sky lost their title. Do you find it more, and we'll get into your judging in a sec more specifically as well, but do you find it more difficult to judge women's fights for that reason,
oh, they're
Paul?
so fast paced with the 2 minute rounds. I'd love to see
Yeah.
women's fights go to 3. Like, I don't know why they don't. The Olympics, they do 3 3s now. And I
Yeah.
think it'd change a lot if it did. Like, you get a lot of these women who fought in the 2 minute round amateur era, and they just get their work done and get out. And when they've got to take that punishment in that 3rd minute, or they've got to pace themselves in that 1st minute or those first 2 minutes, I think it'd change the game dramatically. Um, but yeah, it's like women's fights are always difficult. Like the Katie Taylor and Serrano fights were difficult to score. I remember that women's card where Shields and Savannah Marshall, sorry, headlined. They had that all women's card in England. Michaela Mayer fought. I can't remember her name.
Baumgardner.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like there were all controversial decisions on that one.
Yeah.
Everyone was arguing about every decision on that card, and like all the fights were hard to score. There's no easy fight to score on that card, and it's just the fast pace of the fights. it's hard to. You've really got to be switched on. I was glad I didn't do either of those fights that night because they were both. A lot of the rounds were hard to score and they were messy fights. And yeah,
So difficult. So, yeah, but we know Sky has lost their title, but I'm sure she's with a powerhouse promoter, so no doubt there will be still big things in her future. Possibly a rematch. Who knows? If not, they've got other avenues to go down as well because Sky's super marketable.
oh yeah,
Seems,
definitely,
seems to be fairly popular, like globally too.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure it's definitely not the end of the road for her. But yeah, we had a really good performance from Chanika Johnson, who did in the second fight what I thought she should have done in the first fight, just used her physicality over the much older and physically smaller Nina Hughes, but an impressive performance nonetheless. And at least we didn't have to judge it.
Yes,
So difficult.
yeah, yeah. But I think the referee had his work cut out for him in that fight. 'Cause it
Yeah.
was a messy fight. There was a lot of holding, a lot of wrestling, and both girls were sort of trying to get those cheap shots in when they could. Yeah, but it was very very physical fight. And I agree. I think Shanika did the right things in that fight and just used the physicality. And yeah, I was surprised with the stoppage, but I don't know if there was an injury or something. Like it just sort of seemed to come out of nowhere a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they maybe just saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah,
All right, our girl can't really get going here.
yeah,
She's outmatched physically. Let's go home.
yeah.
Which I'm all for. I don't mind that at all. I wish they would
Oh,
do that more often. But,
yeah.
on both sides of the sport. But Imam Katayev had a 10-round war with, and I've got to look this bloke's first name up, Palacio. What a banger to start the card.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Didn't there was a couple of prelims on before that. I judged the prelims, and then I didn't judge that one. I was sort of rostered off for that fight, and I got to sit in front of the ringside people who paid all this money, and I just sat there. It was an absolute war. It was a great fight. And Katayev, he can whack. There's some serious power there.
Yeah, Derval Elias Palacio. I wanted to get that gentleman's name correct. Sorry, I just looked it up because he is an absolute warrior. But yeah, so what do you make of Imam Katayev? I mean, he's got a lot of hype around him. Shout out to Lukey. I jumped on Lukey Boxing's YouTube channel and podcast, or was invited to go on a couple of weeks back now in a preview for this fight. And he's based in America, and even him, the standout guy he was most excited for on this card was Imam Katayev, just purely from the Olympics hype. I was more of an Andy Cruz guy, so we kind of had different style biases. But yeah, the guy has got certainly a lot of hype in Australia, certainly a lot of hype globally. What do you make of him and his chances moving forward to
Yeah,
really push the top level?
I was you could see the swelling bothered him. I don't know if I couldn't see if that was a head clash or how that caused it. It could have been a couple of the right hands he copped. Palacio, I thought Palacio was solid. He was defending himself well off the ropes. He was coming back strong in some of the rounds. Like Katayev really, just so physically strong. Very awkward style. You could see just that last minute defense a lot of the time with his hands down around his chest, just moving the shoulder, moving the head at the right time. And I was very impressed with both of them, to be honest. It was a very, very fun fight to watch.
Yeah, geez, yeah, Katayev did have his hands down a lot, and he slipped a lot of punches. He also got hit with a lot of shots that he shouldn't have got hit with either. So I don't know. I've got a massive question mark on his defense as he moves up levels, but I mean, hopefully he can, tidy that sort of aspect of his game up. But yeah, if anyone wants to go back on YouTube, that was the fight of the night. That was a
Oh,
brilliant
definitely.
fight. And just wanted to get your thoughts on Tera Moana, who bowled over a Fijian in the first round. Got hit a few times too, though, interestingly enough. But yeah, talk about another guy with kind of global hype.
Yeah.
Tera Moana. What do you make of Tera Moana moving forward?
One of my super heavyweights, Vino's fought Tara Moana at the
Oh,
final of the Olympic trials.
no way. Okay.
Yeah. So Vino was a powerlifting champ. He almost made the Jersey flag team, which is like the under 23s for the Newcastle Knights in NRL. And then he come over after power. Between those, he came over and started boxing. And I remember just putting the gloves on and just mucking around, sparring with him. And I remember hitting him in the body, and it was like, I think he did more damage to my hand than I did to his body. He's just such a big, strong guy, but good footwork too. And he fought Brandon Gratch at the final of the League Nationals in 2022 it would have been. Yeah, 22 I think it would have been. Yeah. I thought he beat Brandon. It was Brandon's first fight in 12 years or something. Vino had a hard fight the night before. Brandon got the bye, and I thought Vino should have won. Like he was didn't really get hit in the last 3 rounds of the 4 round fight, but I yelled at a couple of judges the night before, so I think that worked against me.
Okay.
There's a long story with that, but anyway, yeah. So Vino lost that fight, and then we switched over because Vino wanted to have a crack at the Olympics. He's only had, I think Brandon was his 8th fight. That was his first loss. So when he fought Taramoana, he'd had 12 fights. I don't think Taramoana had done a full camp for this Olympic trial because there was no one in his division. He'd been fighting internationally. I think he was pretty much using these fights as sparring, and then he fought the night before, knocked this poor guy out in about a minute 30. And then he fought Vino, and Vino's come out dancing around because we game plan for him. I'm like, if you can get him to the 3rd round, I think he'll tire. Um, Vino's like gave a good account of himself in the 1st round, lost the round. Like Tamarana hit him with a couple of big shots, didn't rock him. It was the last fight of the tournament. I think the ref had an early fight or something because he's come out. Tamarana's thrown a 1-2 at Vino. Vino's blocked him, and he's put a count on Vino. And then the second one was a count. Like Taramwana had Vino in the corner. Vino was covering up. And the third one, Vino's got Taramwana in the corner. He's unloading on him. And Taramwana just pops him with the right hand like that. And they waved the fight off. And Taramwana's come up to him after it and said, "Where did you come from?" Because he just wasn't expecting anyone to sort of come out and like test him. And Vino was hitting him with some decent shots in the 1st round. Vino went down and sparred him 12 months ago when he was getting ready for the Olympics. So he's got some good experience out of that. And like Vino said, that was sort of like when he was sort of that little bit more serious in training, like he said, like they did some good hard rounds. But he said you could sort of tell the difference with the speed. But he also said, and I think this was going to be the big thing with Taramoana, the bigger guys slow down in the later rounds. Like having that size and that speed is an advantage, but there's an offset to that. Like carrying that, what's he weigh, 120? Carrying that weight around in a long fight. That's where guys have got to get him to those late rounds in the first place, and he's just got such athleticism and such power. But as he progresses in those later rounds, those big arms and legs start filling up with blood, and yeah, I think he'll struggle with over the 12-round distance. And you see that a lot of the guy with a lot of the bigger heavyweights at the top of the game as well. But tremendous prospect.
Yeah.
Well, we've got big heavy, some like the heavyweight division in Australia at the moment is quite stacked. I mean, you got Justice Hooney, who everyone seems to forget about, and he could have medalled at the 2 Olympics ago if he hadn't broken his hand leading up to it.
Yeah.
And Brandon Gratch is fighting Liam Tuliva this weekend. Like, there's some big heavyweights, Jackson Murray. Yeah, we've got there's some talent in Australia at the moment in that division in the pros.
White Chalky. Best
Yeah, White
nickname in
Chocolate.
the country. But yeah, well, it's going to be super exciting. We'll have to see. And as you've just pointed out there, Paul, we've got a number of other names coming up, quote unquote, behind Terra as well to look forward to. So
Yeah.
exciting times in the heavyweight division, which we don't really have a lot of in Australia historically, but yeah, it might be a new wave coming forward, which will be fun. But Paul, you've mentioned a couple of times now about your reffing and judging. Was that something that you always wanted to eventually do, or was it something that just sort of piqued your interest relatively recently?
I've been doing the amateurs for years. When I turned pro, they asked me to start doing some amateurs because I was always pretty heavily involved up in Newcastle with it. And I just sort of started judging. They needed more refs. I don't know if you wouldn't know him personally, but you've probably heard Ian Batty's name as a judge on some of the. Oh, okay. He's one of the judges up in New South Wales. He lives up in Newcastle. He's one of the big names with league boxing. So I just sort of started judging with them, and I just sort of fill in, obviously, because I train guys as well. It's sort of hard. I can't do both on the one night. So like I'd either if I didn't have guys on and they needed a judge, I'd usually jump in, and then refereeing. I've still got reasonably in shape legs, so I can move around quite well. Where you see a lot of the older refs stand in one corner and shout instructions, they get drowned out by the crowd. Where I like being right in there on the action. Every now and then you get hit doing that, but yeah. And I've just always loved love judging the fights. I always had my opinion with the judging, and a couple of years ago, I decided I want to try and get into the pros as well. A few people are encouraging me to do that. I was sort of one of the leading refs in New South Wales with the amateur league. So I sort of jumped in and started doing some of the pro fights as well. It took me a little bit to get my registration with that. We've got Combat Sports New South Wales oversee everything up here. They brought in a lot of legislation after Davy Brown died.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just this little bit of a catch-22. They wouldn't put me on as a pro referee until I had experience, but I couldn't get experience until they put me on. So I was just sort of stuck in this limbo for a while, and they gave me the idea to contact some of the other states. So I registered in ACT. I just went online, and didn't. It's like the Wild West in the ACT. I paid
Okay.
$100 and I was a pro referee.
Wow.
I can't remember. Yeah, obviously I had to have my first aid and stuff like that, which I had, and I'm pretty sure I had to have some sort of skill accreditation, which I'd already had from New South Wales, because I'd put that for my New South Wales pro application. So I just put that into the ACT, but they just accepted it. They rang me and basically were like, "Do you want to do kickboxing as well? Do you want to do MMA?" And I'm like, "No, I just want to do pro boxing refereeing and judging." I'm pretty sure it was $100 for each thing, so I don't know if they were just trying to get more money out of me, seeing if I'd pay $800 instead of 200. But I didn't even sign up as timekeeper because I just had no interest in doing that down there. I
Yep.
contacted a couple of promoters down there and told them I'd come down and referee their pro boxing fights for free. I ended up doing 2 fights. They were both ex-footy players. Can't even remember the first guy's name. He fought on one of the No Limit shows and got knocked out last year. You probably might even be able to help me out with it. Hang on, I'll get my box rec up. Because I don't know if people know this. You can actually get on a pro referee's box rec and you can see all the fights that they've refereed and judged.
Yeah.
And it lists them just like it does with the record. The first one, Joey Leilua. I refereed Joey Leilua versus Paul Ben. Paul Ben, what was his record? I think it was 0-10 or something. He's 1-11 now, so he was 1-9 going into that fight. He was a little bit little bit out of shape, a little bit overweight. Leilua put a right hand on him 20 seconds into the fight, and he went down like a bag of shit, and I waved it off at the count of 3. And all of a sudden, I was a pro referee. They told me to do one more fight, and went down and did John Hopewadi's comeback. Don't know if you're familiar.
Hopper.
Yeah, it was. So that fight started. Yeah, well, he walked out to this song. There was a play school song about placing your finger on various parts of your body.
Fitting.
Yes. And then the fight started, and the guys are circling, and some guy yelled out some abuse at Hopewadi, and Hopewadi spent the rest of the round abusing this guy back, telling him what he was going to do to him in the car park while he's fighting this other guy.
Awesome.
I can't remember David's last name. David Padovan, yeah. So that sort of went on for the first round, and then the round ended, and the guy who was abusing Hopewadi was behind David's corner. So I had to push Hopewadi back to his corner because he was over there threatening him during his minute rest. And then the second round started, and David hit him with a body shot, and Hopper took a knee and got counted out. And that was that was it. Then they let me do some fights in New South Wales.
Okay, what an apprenticeship.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
Damn.
I reckon I've done 20 or 30 state title fights in the league, which are like those fights are hard to referee because you got experienced guys who know the rules and try and bend them a little bit, and you got
Yeah.
experienced coaches who know what you should be doing and they're screaming at you. It's not like the novices where you're sort of more worried about them not hurting each other and not breaking the big rules. And I've done a lot of like the white collar shows where they do a 10-week camp, and those are just an absolute nightmare to referee. But you get 2 good pro fighters, and that's like you got the best seat in the house, and that's one of the reasons why I still do it.
Yeah. Man, that's so awesome. But when you were going through the training courses for the reffing and judging, obviously you have great experience as a competitor yourself in the sport. Was there anything that you learnt or sort of had a different understanding of in terms of the rules once you'd gone through the reffing and judging as compared to just being a competitor, or were you pretty well basically just over it all?
Um, A lot of it's just when you start out, it's just ring position. Like guys don't really. It's hard to tell. It's same with when you're judging. I, you don't really have an appreciation of how difficult it is until you do it. Really good example with the judging. So when I did the Clay Waterman Paulo Acuso fight, I judged all the undercards. The only fight I wasn't meant to do was the Tyson Pedro fight that got cancelled at the last minute. So they had me doing all the fights except that. Then that one got cancelled, and so I ended up doing all the fights. And I was sat next to Danny Green. I can't remember the other gentleman's name who were the commentators. They were sitting on a table probably 2 meters to the left of me. I couldn't hear them during the fight because they had their headphones on, and but they had the TV screen right there, and I'm watching the fights live. And then you've got that minute rest. You hand your scorecard in, and just sort of look around, try and keep yourself awake and stuff like that because like they're long nights. And I'd
Yeah.
look and they have the monitor there right next to you. What was on TV, and I'd see punches live, and I think that punch looked massive when I'm judging it. Then you watch it on TV, and it looked like it was nothing. And then there was the other way where I was looking at punches that I didn't think were too much, and you look at it on TV, and the camera angle they've got, it looks massive. People don't realize how you've got one view. I never criticize any judge anymore after sort of doing it myself with those pro fights because they don't realize like when you're watching a fight on TV, you've got multiple camera angles, you've got the best view the whole time. When you're
Yeah.
watching a fight live, you can hear the punches for one, so you can see the physical impact of them in live, and live is better than any TV camera angle or anything like that because you can hear it, you can see it, but sometimes you can't see it. Like if you've watched a fight from the back row of a stadium, you see every now and then the fighters get into a position where you can't see what's going on. And you're sort of looking up at the big screen. You can't do that when you're judging. You're constantly doing these ones with your head, looking around. And if you see my head on the camera, you'll see I'm constantly moving my head around trying to get the best view. And you're going up and down because the ropes get in your way. And it's incredibly difficult. People has got no idea how difficult it is, and it
Yeah.
just you can say, "Oh, that was a clear win for this guy," and these judges are idiots and they got it wrong. Well, they probably didn't. That's how he saw it from that fight. Obviously, I reckon there still are corrupt judges. I'm not going to say that there aren't, and there still are corrupt decisions. But like all the shows I've worked on, I've not worked on one where I've gone where I sort of think that I've judged a fight. I haven't really been on the wrong side of a split decision yet. So that might change my opinion, but like until like these people who get on Facebook, and it happened after the Akuzo Waterman fight, like people saying, "Oh, we need new judges," blah blah blah, and I was reading these comments on Facebook and thinking, "I'm a new judge. I scored that fight. I still disagree with you."
Jeez. And it seems to me like, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've obviously dedicated your life to boxing. It
In
seems.
my adult
Has
life,
it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like competitor, trainer, author, historian, officiator.
yeah.
You
Boxing's my life. It's the one thing, the one constant in my life that's always sort of there. I've always when I'm involved in boxing's when I'm at my happiest.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so when was the point where you like throughout your life where you were like, all right, I know I'm going all in on boxing? Like was there a certain point or did it just happen sort of gradually?
I dropped out of uni when I'd had two amateur fights and got a job because uni was stopping me getting into the gym. It's just yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
I just angry young kid didn't really have an outlet. Found boxing, and all of a sudden my anger just went out the window.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I do as a trainer now. Like I want to give that to the next generation, and I like refereeing and stuff because I stay involved. Like I might get to the point where I don't think I ever will get to the point where I don't want to train. I always tell my guys that I'm going to be that grumpy old trainer walking up the stairs with my walking stick, abusing all my fighters. And they can see it because I'm abusing them now. But yeah, like I still love doing the local amateur shows and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm gonna. I've judged a 12 rounder now, which is I didn't think I'd be doing that this soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love being involved. I don't really care what avenue it is. I'm too old to fight now. Getting punched in the head hurts too much. But yeah, still I love staying involved, training people. Love staying involved, officiating. It's boxing's just what makes me happy.
Damn, that's amazing. And we mentioned earlier that you are a published author.
Yes, I'm a
You wrote the
self-published
book
author. Yes,
that's still published. You
exactly.
wrote the book Jack Carroll and the Rise of Australian Boxing, which I mentioned in the intro is unbelievably detailed. I read it a few years ago now, when it first came out, and yeah, I couldn't even imagine how much effort it would take to write a book about, say, the last 5 years of of regular boxing, where we have technology and we can
Mm.
research things. Like you wrote a book about, correct me if I'm wrong in the time, like the 20s and 30s. Jack
Yeah,
Carroll was around.
yeah.
Just so to the availability of information and the effort you had to put in to research this stuff and get it accurate. I can't even imagine, but it was a phenomenal book, and every Aussie fight fan should have it. So I have two questions. One, is the book still available? Because if it is, I will definitely put the link in the description of this episode so people can buy it. And two, have you got any more plans for any more writing projects in the future, Paul?
One, yes, it is still available. It's still online. You get on your local bookstores like Amazon, and I don't even know what the bookstores are anymore. It's yeah,
Okay, I'll do
yeah,
some
but yeah.
googling and we'll
If you
put it in the description.
I know it's on Amazon. I think Book Depository has gone downhill. Booktopia is the Australian one. I'm pretty sure it's still on there.
Yep.
And I was actively writing during COVID. I was sort of researching a couple of different projects and sort of started drafting a book on Dave Sands. Um, I met Dave's grandson Chad at. They did a fundraiser in Dungog, which is where Dave tragically died. They had like a memorial on the spot where he died, and the neighbours across the road, they didn't even know the history of it. They just seen these kids vandalising this thing, and they contacted the council, and they thought it was a bus stop.
Oh,
So they had a fundraiser and raised money, and they put this great great memorial thing in there for him. And I found out they were doing that because Dungog's about an hour and a half from where I am. So I donated a book to it, and they auctioned it off. And Dave's son ended up buying the book.
oh,
Yeah, I signed it for him. I ended up giving the family another copy, and then I was talking to Chad about it, and he said like the family's never really been happy with anything they wrote. I sort of got probably 2/3 of the way through a draft during COVID, and then came out of COVID, started a new job. Gym took off after COVID. All the officiating took off, and I've sat down and looked at it a couple of times, but I've just not been able to sit down and actually write
yeah,
in
yeah.
be 4 years now. I think since I touched it, I'd love to finish it off. I'd love to do another one, but I just just don't know where I can find the time.
Damn.
Yeah,
Wow.
I
Oh,
still
mate,
stay
that's
involved. Like I'm still in the International Boxing Research Organization. I still read all the journals. I still read a lot of boxing stuff. I just don't get time to write my own stuff anymore.
yeah. Damn. Well, you've 2/3 of the way of the draft done. I mean, if there's a rainy day or another bloody worldwide pandemic, you might have the time.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah,
Don't want to cross our fingers for that though, but
no,
hopefully
no,
you can find the
exactly.
time one way or
Yeah.
another. But I've got a real difficult question for you, Paul. But we don't have to. You can take it as seriously as you want. But if you had a Paul Cupitt 5-year plan, so in 2030, what are some of the things with boxing related that you'd love to have under your belt in 5 years?
Well, I got a couple of pros I'm training. One's fighting this weekend on the Tim Zoo undercard. I got a couple of amateurs who I'm hoping will be included at the next Olympics. Like that's sort of their goal moving forward. Yeah, so like I'd love to see like a couple of my pros win Australian titles, get world ranked. I'd love to have a guy on the next Olympic team. Like my heavyweight I was talking about before, Vino. I sent him over to Perth to fight Terra Moana, knowing he probably wasn't experienced enough to fight Terra Moana. But he come back and he won states, and he's been to America on an amateur tournament. He won states again last year. He got beat at nationals last year, but we're sort of moving him towards Commonwealth Games this year, and then he's got World Trials in May. So like those guys moving forward, like I'd love to be in the corner of some Australian title fights, get a couple of world ranked guys, have a couple of amateurs coming through. I've got some really good juniors coming through as well. So like just want the gym to keep progressing. I just want to stay involved with the refereeing and the judging, and I'd love to finish that book, but just finding the time unless I win the lotto. and so someone can pay for my house and let me rent it, live here rent free. I don't see the time.
Yeah. Damn, that's so exciting, though. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, knowing how far you've progressed just in the last couple of years, Paul, I have no doubt you may well have all those things under your belt in 5 years, if not be pretty bloody close, or maybe even more. Who knows?
yeah.
So, but no, mate, that's super exciting, and I'm sure I won't be the only one that's going to be watching along with you as well. But mate, we'll just jump into a couple of fights we got coming up just to finish up this coming weekend. We've got an Australian in action. And it's not Tim Zhu just yet. We got Dana Coolwell over in America on
Oh,
a top
right.
ranked card. He's
I
fighting
had no
Albert
idea about
Gonzalez, who's 12-0.
that. Okay.
I don't think we will have any TV for it because it's going to clash directly with the Tim Zhu show.
Yeah.
So it'll be a case of everyone firing up their radios or watching it later. We'll see how we go. But I didn't realize it was the exact date that Tim was fighting. I thought it was next week, so I didn't have a lot of time to watch Albert Gonzalez. He has fought on some undercards. I've seen a little bit of him. This seems like a classic, to me at least anyway. Dana fought Carrington on the Mike Tyson card. He got a lot of exposure. The top-ranked matchmakers, being the best in the biz, have gone, okay, we've got our guy. We want to step up. We think he can beat Coolwell. Let's get Coolwell over. That's what it looks like to me, which is dangerous because the top-ranked
Yes.
guys rarely miss. But I'm hoping Dana can put a spanner in the works there. But how do you like Dana's chances and another big opportunity overseas in America back-to-back after a tough loss?
Yeah, I can't say I've seen Gonzalez. I'm just having a little look through him. It looks like he was quite a good junior amateur. He made the junior Golden Gloves. He won junior Golden Gloves in 2018, the national ones, which is so they have in America. They have the Golden Gloves, which is just a national tournament. If you win it, you get your Golden Gloves, and then they have the actual nationals, which if you win it, you represent America. So he's won the juniors of those in 2018, and then it looks like he's turned pro not long after that. Oh, he's turned pro 2021, so I don't really know what he's done in between that, but like obviously a lot of talent there. It seems like he's got a bit of backing as well, fighting on these shows. Obviously got a good promoter behind him. So yeah, it sort of seems on paper like that, but like Dana Coolwell can fight.
Yeah.
So he's gonna go over there and like I remember him fighting Jake Wiley and thinking that was a super close fight that could have gone either way.
I thought Dana won.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought he beat that Argentinian bloke as well. The other
Yeah,
loss he had. So
I can't I can't specifically remember the fight with Wiley and how I scored it. But I have memories of thinking that Dana got ripped off in that fight. But yeah, they never
yeah,
fought again, did they? No, they didn't.
no, it was. I think it was a lightweight too. It was a big weight jump for Dana, but just
Yeah,
after the pandemic, I think was the
yeah,
time frame. They had to just fight whoever they could at the time.
yeah.
But,
I mean, we've had the pandemic since we last spoke. I was looking up before. It was 2019. July
yeah,
2019 was the last time I was on this show.
I know. Well, hopefully,
Yeah.
it won't be
Well,
6 years in between the next time. We'll see.
something funny I was looking up. I've got it in front of me here. I got the pound for pound rankings from back then. 3 of the top 4: Terence Crawford, Naoya Inoue, Alexander Usyk. They're your top
Wow.
3 at the moment on the pound for pound list on Transnational Boxing Rankings Board. Yeah,
As
that's.
much as things change, they
I
also
know.
stay the same.
I know. Yes. Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's quite a good card Dana's on.
Yes. I'm just looking
Abdullah
at it. Yeah.
Mason's back against
Yeah.
Carlos Aniles. And the main event looks like a good one. Lindolfo Delgado versus Elvis Rodriguez. That looks like a banger. So it's quite a good card. The clash isn't great because it runs directly up against the Tim Zhu card, which is going to get all the fanfare. But
Yeah.
it'll definitely be one to track down after the fact or
100%.
during if we
Yeah.
have the technological know-how. But
Uh,
anyway,
It's not something I'd ever do, but I got a friend of mine who loves getting on those pirate things. He tells me all about it.
I don't know anything about it, mate.
Neither
Never
do
done
I.
it, never would. But we'll jump into the big one, mate. And I actually want to start at the bottom of the card, respectfully, if that's okay. The beginning,
that's
the
fine.
opening of the card, I should say. Your man, Ben Amos, is
Yes.
kicking things off against Cooper O'Connell. What can you tell us about Ben and the prep? How's it been, mate?
Yeah, the prep's been good. Ben's in shape. I don't think they know what they're in for.
Okay.
Cooper's he won a world junior amateur title, and it was since Aiba lost the Olympic bid, world boxing's taken over. A lot of the countries were still transitioning to world boxing, so it wasn't a world championship he won. It was a world event with some countries in it that was called the World Championship. So it was world boxing's world championships, but I think there were 20 countries there. Like the worlds are harder to win than the Olympics. The Olympics are harder to qualify for, but the worlds you get brackets sometimes with 60, 70 guys in there, and it's fought over 2 weeks. And I watched his fights when they first offered us the fight, or I heard a rumor they were going to offer us the fight from another trainer. I looked up his fights because I wanted to see. I didn't want to throw Ben to the wolves if this Cooper could fight. And I looked at it. I'm like, Ben beats this kid. I'm 100% confident Ben's going to win this fight. Could be a case of it's going to be like we're going in looking to end it, or at least get 2 knockdowns, so mathematically they can't take it off us. And I've told Ben, like, if you don't get those 2 knockdowns, we're just going to assume you've lost because it's like there's a lot of hype behind it. I'm not saying that they're going to stitch us up, but it's there's a lot of hype behind this kid, and they
Wow.
don't know they don't know who Ben is. Like Ben fought at National Golden Gloves last year. The competition at National Golden Gloves is much higher than Junior Worlds. Ben beating guys who have stopped Cooper in the amateurs. Like they don't know who Ben is. They've picked the wrong guy to cut his teeth on.
Damn.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
I'm 100% confident. Ben's in shape. He's injury free. Like, yeah. Ben's been boxing for a long time. He almost died in a motorbike accident 2 years ago. Obviously, COVID slowed things down a little bit, especially up here in New South Wales. Like Ben couldn't get fights pretty much for that 2 year period, but he's in the gym training. He's always sparring good guys. Sparred some good guys. He's done rounds with Wade Ryan leading up to this fight. I'm confident we're gonna turn over the apple cart before it's got any apples in it.
Damn. Well,
Yeah,
Paul, my excitement for that fight went from about an 8 to a 9 million. So you've done your job getting me
yeah.
pumped up.
Oh, it's I like Ben sells locally, which is why they've chosen him. They hit us up for that fight on the Thurman Jarvis undercard, and I told them no because Ben wasn't going to be ready for that. Like we were looking at April. Ben's been training since January, but we didn't really ramp things up, and it was only a couple of weeks' notice when they gave it that. And I'm like, I'm not throwing Ben to the like as the B side on a show with a couple of weeks prep when we can be the B side on a local show with 6 weeks prep. And I sort of sold it to them, and they saw it. And I got my other pro, who's funnily enough named Zach Fitzpatrick. I was trying to get him on the card too. It's just there's not many featherweights and not many bantamweights around. Zach's sort of a super bantamweight, is what I think he's most comfortable at. He's had his last fight at featherweight just because struggling to get opponents. I think there's 7 fighters nationally.
Yeah.
And we got a local kickboxer for the first one who stepped in, and that guy's got more fights than Zach now because he's got no wins on his record. And this guy Pat, he's tough and he comes to fight, and people want someone to cut their teeth on.
Yeah.
But Zach couldn't get matched. But I sort of sold it to him. I said we've got a couple of local boys who sell. Like if you put it on the Tim Zoo card in Newcastle, and they were pretty happy with it. And yeah.
Damn. Mate,
Yeah, I
wow.
don't know if they'll
Gotta
be.
check
I
it
don't
out.
know if they'll be happy with it. Come around lunchtime on Sunday, but we'll
Okay.
see. Yeah.
Okay. Damn, that's exciting. But now I believe Ben Amos is kicking off the prelims. Is that
Yes.
still the running?
That's how I understand it. Yeah.
So that'll be about 9:15 fight time
Yeah. 9:30
locally?
something
Okay.
along around then. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll definitely be tuning in. I'm sure people watching and listening will too. But the prelim portion, which is normally free on Fox Sports and KO, which I believe this one is too, is pretty damn good. After that, we got Cody Beacon and Ryan Day. I haven't
Yeah.
heard of Ryan Day before, but Cody Beacon's a bloody good, honest pro who always in good, entertaining fights. And headlining that portion is the return of Andre Mikhailovich against Blake Wells,
That'll be a
which
good fight.
is a banger of a fight. So
I
in
used to
terms of,
spar. I used to spar Blake when he was training in Sydney.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I've probably
Yeah.
done 100 rounds with Blake.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice. He would have
he's
been bigger back
very.
then, wouldn't he?
He was fighting amateur because he was fighting. He fought what's his name? Mark Lucas. He fought Mark Lucas and Ned Kane at the Commonwealth Games trials. That was 2014. I
Okay.
was doing a bit of training with him then. I was sparring a lot. I was getting ready for my pro debut. And
Yep.
Blake on whack. He's a big puncher. He's like, there's another one where I think that's all. You got a live underdog in that fight.
Yeah. Man, so for a prelim portion, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So everyone should get up early and check that one out. But we'll move through. We're obviously in reverse order, but we've got Brent Walton and Isaiah Secchi opening up the pay per view portion. Isaiah Shetty's always in bangers. Wears those Converse shoes, stands out a little bit. And Brent
Yeah, so's
Walton,
Brent. Brent's also, very entertaining fighter. I don't know
yeah,
if you
that
remember his
fight
fight
with
with Truella. Yeah,
was just about to mention it. Yeah, that's an
yeah.
absolute banger and a half. So that's a great way to kick it off. As we spoke about a little earlier, Callum Peters is back for his second pro fight against William Lenahan, which I believe he fought a couple of times in the amateurs. You would know more about that than
Uh,
me, Paul. Is that
I don't
correct?
actually know Lenahan. I'm just looking him up. Oh yeah, fought him. Yeah, he's from Melbourne. Yeah, he's fought him at least once. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've not seen Lenahan fight. He's fought some decent guys in the amateurs though.
Yeah. Yeah, haven't heard of him either. We got for the Australian Super Welterweight title, Cole Mazzuti is back after he's lost to Nikita Zoo against Dan Hill. Which I think is a great fight on paper, but I just think that style clash is going to be awkward as hell. I
Yeah.
feel like it's going to be a bit of a rough watch, but are you more optimistic than me on that one, Paul?
Um. Yeah, it's hard. I can't remember seeing Dan. I'm just looking through his record. I'm pretty sure I've seen him. I saw his fight with Dylan Biggs.
Mm.
But yeah, like it'll be good to see sort of what Cohen has left after that. I've seen him sparring a couple of times leading up when we've been down at their gym, and like he's looking good. He's Ben did a few rounds with him a few
Oh,
weeks back. Yeah, a bit of a
nice.
weight difference there, but yeah. Good quality rounds. You just can't beat good quality rounds, even if it's not the
Yeah.
perfect style matchup. Like, yeah,
Damn. Well, that's awesome.
yeah,
He's certainly going to be well prepared. Then we have the, like we said, that weird fight for some reason, Andriy Saavedra and Mikael Nielsen. Bloody Andriy Saavedra is one hell of a tough bastard. So I haven't seen Mikael Nielsen before, but I imagine Saavedra is probably going to get over the line there, but that's purely just a guess. But blokes you're more familiar with, Paul, in the co-main event, they've got the co-main event spot, the rematch between Brandon Gratch and Liam Taliva. There's
yeah.
got to be some local hype around this one during
Oh,
fight week,
definitely.
doesn't
Well,
there? Yeah.
my heavyweight Vino's got King of the Ring next weekend, and he's been sparring Brandon and their other heavyweight Tristan. Leading up to this, like those three have been doing a bit of a round robin, which has been good rounds. Brandon's looking in good shape. Like he's come back from his that injury he suffered last year. Well, it's going to be another banger, really, isn't it? It's going to be who checks whose chin first. I think.
Yeah, or second, who
Yeah,
knows?
or second. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Or third.
Yeah,
Like it's
I've
like the
re- I've
first.
refed Brandon once or twice as well. After he fought Vino, and like, there's this guy who gets around from Nyngan, which is like a small country town in New South Wales, named Ricky Sandra. I think Ricky's turning pro this year, and Ricky fought my heavyweight Vino. Ricky just travels up and down the east coast of Australia, fighting anyone who'll throw the gloves on and fight him. He's not overly pretty to watch, but he's a lumberjack. He's just fit and strong, and just gets in there and bangs. And Vino beat him on a split decision for the New South Wales state title. Brandon's the first person I've really seen just put him to the sword. Like he dropped Ricky twice in the second round. I was very close to stopping it, and then Ricky just marched on through. And I thought he came back and won the third round, but Brandon hurt him again in the fourth, and they ended up going the distance. But I was just that was only Brandon's second fight back, and I'm like, okay, this guy's. It was like I knew Brandon back when he was a kid. He used to come into our gym and spar Daniel Mann when I was up and coming amateur
Oh,
fighter.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah. Brandon was all, and then he just disappeared off the face of the earth. Like he's super nice guy, easy to talk to. Yeah. Even after he beat Vino at nationals, he's come up and saying, "Oh, this is what I was doing to you," and showing him some technical stuff. And I was
Oh,
like, "Okay,
wicked.
yeah. It's good that they're doing rounds again now." And yeah,
Absolutely. Wow, that's cool, mate. That's good to know.
yeah, but
Um,
no, Brandon's in shape. It's going to be a banger, that one. Yeah, I'm keen to watch it after Ben's fight.
Bloody oath. And in the main event of the pay per view, which should it be a pay per view? Absolutely not, but we'll save that argument for another day. Tim Zhu is back after a third round knockout loss to Bakram Murtazaliev, where, just to put it bluntly and honestly, he got absolutely steamrolled and dominated. And he's up against Joey Spencer, who has rebuilt after the Jesus Ramos loss, admittedly with a couple of soft touches or softer touches. We think that's going to be the fight. We're recording this on Wednesday
Yeah.
morning. There is threats, as you alluded to earlier, Paul, of Joey Spencer pulling out due to the judging. The three Australian judges, where apparently they were promised only one Australian judge and two neutrals. So I guess that's still ongoing. And as we know, as you pointed out earlier, Michael Zarafa has put his hand up to jump in. So we'll see if that main event stays together, but we'll work on the information we have, which is Tim Tszyu, Joey Spencer. What do you make of it and what are you expecting, Paul?
I think if Tim hasn't got any long-term effects from that last loss, I think he'll be too classy and too powerful for Spencer, and I think he'll probably stop him late.
Yep.
That fight with Bakram, I admit I'd heard of him, but I couldn't remember him. And then leading up that week of the fight, and I had a little bit of downtime. I watched some of his fights, and I was just like, oh, geez, I don't know if they know what they're in for, because he'd had that one fight where he was pretty inactive over COVID. Guys were paying him a lot of step aside money, and then he didn't look real good in his comeback fight. I think he had Jack Culcay, and that was his first fight in 2 years. But you look at some of the fights before that, when before guys were paying him that step aside money, because I think he was mandatory challenger all through COVID, and he made like almost $500,000 in step aside money during that time
Oh,
because no one
how
wanted to
good.
fight him. It's one of those Russians, sort of like Sergey Kovalev, who wasn't representing Russia, but was like the number 2 or number 3 amateur, and like population of Russia and the competition for amateur fighting there, like doesn't mean he can't fight. It's you got a lot of guys. Like, could only imagine how competitive the Russian national team would be to get on.
Oh,
So
yeah.
for him being sort of, like, you look through his amateur record, Bakram's sort of the number 2, number 3 Russian before he went pro. And he went pro and sort of started slow, and just got that years of that Soviet amateur style behind him, and the hard sparring, and probably the couple of hundred amateur fights that he's had that there's no record of. And it was just it was just a bad fight to take for Tim coming off that first loss.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I don't think anyone really knew it was a bad fight until it started. And Tim looked like all right for the first little bit until Buckram hit him, and then just that left hook was just, yeah, just so short and so powerful, and yeah.
It was over.
Oh, yeah, I know. Tim did well. I thought the fight should have been stopped before it was. Like you could see, he didn't need to go down that third time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a brutal one, but I don't know. With me, this fight, I mean, Tim Tszyu for me is just the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde. I just personally, for me, I don't know if other people can relate. I just never know what I'm going to get with this guy. You know, we look at the performances against Terrell Gaucher, Bakram for sure, where he's just this defense out the window, come forward, stand in front of you, wide elbows, chin in the air. I'm going to smash your head in before you smash my head in. That's how he fought. It's insane. But then he has brilliant performances where he comes out against Brian Mendoza and he's patient. The Tony Harrison fight, he was patient early.
yeah,
He was defensively, well, more defensively sound early. He didn't open up for a couple of rounds. So he's capable of both things.
yeah.
And
When he's patient, he's one of the best in the world.
yeah, and we spoke about Liam Wilson earlier, like a similar sort of trait. We don't know what we're going to get with these guys. So, yeah, funnily enough, it's only just occurred to me they are quite similar in terms of, you know, if they box first, they're brilliant. When they get reckless, they make it tough for themselves. So for me, I would like to think we're going to get, you know, well, sounds harsh, but hopefully Tim learned his lesson in the harshest possible way this time. Hopefully he comes out and be patient. I'm no boxing strategist, but seems like that's when he has his best, most effective performances. And he gets hit far less, and that's always great, especially at a weight where a lot of guys can punch. Joey can punch too. I think it's the right step down from where Tim was.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
for me, the question is, what Tim turns up, and we won't know till the bell rings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, yeah. I think if he's patient, boxes behind his jab, and uses his physicality early on, and wears Spencer down, like he should stop Spencer late. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But
And
Spencer can whack. He's going to be dangerous early on.
And I feel like it would be remiss of us not to acknowledge the possibility, because it actually may happen. How would you see a fight going with Zarafa if, say, in a day or two, the fight gets switched? This version of Tim against this version of Zarafa, how would you see that playing out?
Yes, depends what weight they do it at. Like if Zarafa's got to make junior middle, I don't think he'll have much left in the tank,
Okay.
especially with not much of a preparation for it. Like he's obviously hasn't had the 6 weeks of sparring leading up, but he did just fight, so he's still going to be reasonably sharp. But he's also would have come down a little bit, tried to sort of set himself up for the next camp with that rest and relaxation, and then jumping straight into a fight at a weight class. So if they fight at middleweight, I think Rafa's still got that little bit of pop. If he doesn't walk into a right hand early on, like he might give Tim a few rounds. I think Tim's a bad style matchup for Zarafa. Zarafa's got that power and he like such a good technical boxer, but I think Tim can break him down. I think Tim's physicality will wear him down later on, even if Zarafa's sort of at his best. That's sort of how I always saw that fight going.
Yeah. I mean, I agree too. I think it's, again, it all hinges on what Tim turns up. If it's the Tim that turns up against Bakram and Terrell Gaucher and those sort of guys, I mean, there's a possibility this fight looks like Zarafa Hardman.
Yeah.
Zarafa's a brilliant counterpuncher. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for his counterpunching ability.
Same
So
with,
you just want to roll.
with the Jeff Horn fights, like that was the big difference. Like Zarafa's such a good textbook boxer, like punches straight down the pipe, brings that hook around, sets the hook up nicely, good defense. It's just he's just got that chin where it's just, and I think a couple of those early knockout losses he had, I think that was I think he got stepped up a little bit too far. I can't remember the guy's name.
Peter Quillen.
That's it, Peter Quillen, yeah. Peter Quillen, like that was just too big of a step up, I thought, at that point. He jumped from fighting fringe contenders to fighting one of the best in the world and just, yeah, it was a bad knockout. And there's Andy Lara fight. Like, Lara's just Zarafa's a good textbook boxer. Lara's elite, like one of the best technicians in the world, pound for pound.
Yeah.
Just doesn't really have the age and the physicality to be the best in the world anymore, but still one of them. And like could expose that chin on Zarafa early on with being the better boxer. Whereas like Zarafa, like fighting a guy like Tim, who, as you said, can come out a little bit reckless and not set his shots up. Counter right hand, he's like Tim's been caught with it before. That left hook as well. Zarafa's got a good left hook. He's got power in both hands.
Yeah. Well, that's the one he got Harbin with off the ropes, that left hook he didn't see coming. Like the way Tim was walking to Murdazaliev and putting that pressure on, like Zarafa loves that. You walk at Zarafa,
I know.
giving him exactly what he wants. But to
if Tim goes in behind the jab and sets it up and gets Zarafa on the back foot and then picks his shots, and especially Zarafa has a limited training camp, or in this case 3 days notice for the fight, and Tim starts roughing him up in the clinch, which he's so good at, and being physical, and like Tim should stop Zarafa if they fight this weekend.
Yeah, I would, go out on a limb and agree with the professional boxer and coach's opinion on that one. So I'll take the easy way out, but I agree with you, Paul, for sure on that one, mate. But no, it should be a good card, and more interestingly enough, for us and for this pod, we've got Your Charge Ben Amos opening up the free portion of the prelims early at around 9 to 9:30 on Sunday morning that anyone can watch. You can watch it on your mobile phones if you're camping. You can watch it anywhere because it's totally free on Fox and KO, which is awesome. So we'll finish it up there, Paul. Thanks very much for your time, mate. And first and foremost, massive good luck to you and the team for this coming week. And hopefully fight week goes nice and smooth for you. I'm glad to hear that it's at home and within comfortable surroundings in Newcastle for you guys. Yes. So, and you've got me super excited for that fight to open up the card. I am jumping out of my skin at the moment. So I'd try not to pick favourites, but I'm Team Amos and Team Cupitt all day. So first and foremost, best of luck, mate. And
thanks, mate.
It's been amazing to see the last couple of years when we spoke in 2019, as you mentioned the first time on the pod, you were all in on boxing then, and a couple of years later, you're even more all in now, and seeing the success from afar, and seeing your path and progression through the sport at multiple different levels, training, officiating, has been super inspiring, mate, and great to know that you're still working on the writing stuff, because you're unbelievably talented at that. You're an asset to Australian boxing on multiple levels in multiple different dimensions, mate, and I mean, the easiest way to put it is you're a lifelong boxing guy, and those people are really hard to, really difficult not to get behind, mate. And very, very easy to support. So best of luck to you moving forward, mate, and all your team, amateur and pro, and can't wait to see where you end up next time we speak. Hopefully it won't be 6 years. Hopefully it'll be a little less time than that, but I'll take the blame for that one. But yeah, best of luck for the rest of the year, mate.
We'll have to see if Terence Crawford and Usyk and Inoue are still in the pound-for-pound list when we speak next.
I reckon they will be. I got a feeling they will be.
Yeah. But, all right, mate. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Just stay on the line for a sec, Paul, because this will just take a few seconds to finish up, mate. But we'll do it again a bit sooner than we did this time.
Too easy.
All right, guys, and there we had it. That was my chat with Paul Cupitt. Man, how much fun was that? It's been too long. I mentioned that Paul and I kept in semi-regular-ish contact over the years since his first appearance on the podcast 6 years ago. But we certainly didn't get to chat that in depth and for that amount of time when we were talking on the phone either. So, I had an absolute ton of fun. I'm sure you guys did too. Learned so much, especially about the amateur scene. Man, Paul's just... as I said in the intro and during the chat, a lifelong boxing guy at all levels, and his knowledge is just so deep. I had no idea about, for example, the reasons why Callum Peters moved up to 80 kilos in the amateurs. I had no idea that the 75 kilo weight class got eliminated from Olympic competition. And I watched most of those fights. It didn't even occur to me. I thought those 75 kilo rounds were just in different sessions that I didn't watch. So, and that was just one of the small things that Paul was able to teach me and hopefully enlighten you guys a little bit more on as well, and further our knowledge of our favourite sport. But, so much fun. As mentioned, guys, if you want to follow along with Paul, I have put his Instagram handle, which is the main one that he uses these days, in the description of this episode. And we've also found out, since some research after the chat that we had, although Paul alluded to it, Jack Carroll and the Rise of Australian Boxing, the unbelievably detailed and thoroughly researched must-have book for Aussie fight fans and global fight fans too, that Paul wrote about 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe 7 years, whenever it was, is still available to be purchased. So in the description of this episode, I have included the Amazon link and also the Booktopia link. So if you guys haven't read that book and you would like to, which I highly recommend, all you have to do is click on those links in the description to this episode, and that'll take you straight to the order page for the great Australian boxing book authored by our guest Paul Cupitt. So guys, that was a heap of fun, eh? Thanks very much to Paul for the time, and I'll definitely be making sure it's not 6 years in between drinks next time. We'll certainly get Paul back on the pod a little earlier. But speaking of other pods, guys, a huge shout out to Lukey Boxing. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but Lukey reached out to me to do a preview before the George Kambosos card a couple of weeks back, had me on his podcast, which was only the second time I've ever been on somebody else's podcast, so it was a massive thrill, and I take every invite as a compliment, and to return the favour, and which I'd very much be looking to do anyway. Certainly plan on getting Lukey back on this podcast to return the favour and have a good chat to him sometime in the coming weeks or months. We'll figure it out on the schedule. But if you'd like to support Lukey, guys, he does write for Boxing Scene. I believe his full name is Luke Kittil, but he goes by Lukey Boxing on social media and has the Lukey Boxing YouTube channel, and all that stuff is available on audio at all your places like Spotify, and iTunes and all the rest of the apps if you just type in Lukey Boxing. So shout out to Lukey, and thank you for the time, mate, and can't wait to have a chat again. So guys, we did end up going a little longer between pods this time than I originally said. So guys, sometimes things happen. I'm going to put my hand up. This one was on me. I totally got the scheduling wrong, and the person that I had organised through no fault of their own was not able to make it on at the time that I had organised. So, it was just, I dropped the ball a little bit. I'll take full responsibility for it. But, we're still in contact, and that particular person will certainly be on again in the future. So, guys, if you want to get in contact with me, you can email the pod at tuscpod@gmail.com. That's tuskpod@gmail.com. If you want to throw a tweet at me, you can do that at delivery_man2. Also got the Instagram handle in there, guys. But as is customary at this point, it's always worth noting, I just post when there's a new episode, so it's not a must follow. But if you want to, you certainly can. And if you want to reach out and have a chat or DM or whatever, which a couple of people have done, which has been really cool, feel free to get at me on any of those platforms previously mentioned. So, guys, we've got a big one coming up this week. Dana Coolwell in the US, a massive good luck to Team Coolwell over in America. They seem to be up against it, but if anyone can pull the upset, I'm backing Dana. I always back the Aussie, and Dana's one of my favourite fighters. So best of luck to Dana and to Team Coolwell as a whole. And, of course, we've got the big Tim Tszyu return against Joey Spencer / or maybe Michael Zarafa. We'll see what happens in the coming days. That's not Aussie boxing if there isn't some sort of weird last-minute change. So expect the unexpected. We know that. But first and foremost, best of luck to Team Amos and to Paul Cupitt opening up the card in Newcastle between 9 and 9:30 on Sunday morning, which is free on Fox and KO. So you do not need to pay for a pay-per-view. Anyone can watch that anywhere on any device. So let's get behind Ben Amos and the wider team, Paul Cupitt. Much widely. The wider team, more Paul Cupitt, much widely. Guys, I've been talking for a while. You get what I mean. Best of luck to those guys. So, guys, we're going to try and come back. I'm not going to lie. I was going through the schedule. There isn't a ton probably till towards the end of April, May. So I reckon, even though I've said in the past we're going to try and do, every 2 or 3 weeks, just bump up that regularity of dropping pods, we're probably going to be back to a 4-weekly break in the next one, just sort of dictated by the schedule. But it's a crazy sport, so you never know. So we'll be working towards that time frame, guys. If something pops up earlier, all good. If not, we'll go in our normal 4-week break or thereabouts. So, guys, enjoy the fights on the weekend. Should be a ripper. I've just been talking for too long, so I got to get the hell out of here. Enjoy the fights, guys. I'll catch you later.
Well, let's travel, may add up the change. Living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came.
Going all out.
I was living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I got the wake-up call, laughing through the window frame.